Previously, Kim Ji-hyun navigates personal and professional challenges at his new residence and hospital, gaining respect through groundbreaking research despite initial skepticism. His exceptional output leads to a higher salary and recognition as a top consultant known as the Midas Hand. Our guy went from a hard-stuck life of failure to a literal second chance. But apparently, the grind never stops even when you're technically winning at life. Kim Ji-hyun is just trying to walk through the city with a girl who swears this isn't a date while speedrunning every tourist trap. Total transparency. She is basically mapping out his entire weekend itinerary. Not a date, he says, coping hard. They drift toward the bridge, and she is dead set on treating him to some elite dining. Our guy is trying to pull a smooth payment move, but he is clearly out of his financial league, trying to riz with an empty wallet. Inside this fancy joint, she toasts to his sudden fame as a Midas Hand. The legend gets slapped with the label, and he looks like a confused NPC whose dialogue tree just broke, getting roasted by his own reputation. While he is eating this top-tier steak, his brain is straight-up lagging. He's glitching back to images of spicy stew, and the lady is low-key calling him out for having the world's worst poker face. Skill issue. He almost drops his gear when she pulls a bottle of soju out like a secret inventory item, acting like it is totally normal to smuggle booze into a 5-star location. Negative aura. They are vibing with the drinks until a loud bang echoes outside. He instantly drops the date persona, ready to pivot into a side quest combat encounter. Main character energy. She explains the local syndicate situation like she's reading a Wikipedia page for a crime drama. Apparently, a leader named Mary makes the street thugs look like tutorial-level trash mobs. It's over. After casually naming half the city's power players, she jokes that their new boss might kidnap him for being smart. The poor guy is sweating through his drink just trying to survive the dialogue. Down catastrophic. The camera cuts to the hospital exterior where our reincarnated doctor is ready to start his shift. He thinks he is about to speedrun this medical rotation, but the tutorial arc is clearly just beginning. Overconfident. He meets Professor David, who dives straight into the workload, and suddenly the guy who was chilling with total mobsters is forced to analyze his first clinical case, grinding for that XP. As the team dissects a patient's coma, the doc compares their style to the toxic hierarchy from his old life. He's realizing he is stuck in a completely different leveling meta. Hard stuck. The professor puts him on the spot, and he is dragging his feet, vibrating with fear. He thinks his research-only fame is going to get him ratioed in front of everyone. Absolute cinema. He plays it safe and just echoes the group consensus to stay out of trouble. Still, the staff whispers that his clinical skills are mid compared to his research. Cooked. Little did he know, bro was about to stop being mid and start absolutely glitching reality. Kim Ji-hyun is low-key flexing on the professors now that he's dropped some cracked research, trading in his old life of failing missions for an S-tier academic record that makes the senior staff stop acting like NPCs. He's basically main character maxing his way through residency, but this peaceful tutorial arc is totally cooked the second the story actually starts. Meanwhile, the local mob crew is throwing a rooftop party to celebrate another win, acting like they're the kings of the world while the actual boss looks like he's ready for the endgame. A lady tries to keep it low-key with her drink, but the rank-and-file goons are already begging to get absolutely plastered like they're at a company outing gone wrong. Negative aura. She finally gives the green light to party, but the vibe is murdered instantly when an explosion rocks the roof and turns their celebration into a total dumpster fire. The boss catches a bullet like it's a career-ending debuff, and his squad goes from party mode to absolute panic mode in record time. It's over. Even while leaking HP, the leader is still trying to issue commands to find the snitch, showing he's got that classic final boss energy even when he's moments away from a game-over screen. These lackeys are hauling their heavy-duty project toward the hospital like they're trying to speedrun a rescue mission, clearly fumbling the bag on their own security budget. The group storms the front desk of the facility like they're trying to brute force a locked door, screaming for a healer because they're down bad and have zero chill. Our guy is just trying to finish up a resume and secure that extra bread from the night shift, thinking he's got a free side quest night, until a phone call turns his chill session into a total nightmare. Skill issue. He doesn't even wait to wrap up his paperwork, just sprints toward the emergency room because he knows his life is about to get significantly more spicy than a stack of medical charts. He finally slides into the unit, landing right in the middle of a literal mob movie tragedy that's happening in real time, just to realize he's way outside his pay grade. Before he can even assess the vitals, the goons drag him into the spotlight, expecting some kind of wizardry to fix a patient who looks like they've been chewed up by a cannon. Hard stuck. The blonde subordinate realizes the doctor is just a resident and not some god-tier surgeon, so he hits him with the classic, get wrecked, special, and tosses him like yesterday's trash, leaving the whole situation completely cooked. But before he can even enjoy this massive L, the vibes in the lobby get zero aura fast. The hospital is basically holding on by a thread as doctors flag that the patient is so mangled they're practically already toast. Our guy watches the desperate man in the suit lose his mind, realizing his shift just went from 0 to 100. Then things get genuinely cooked. This guy decides that a loud pop into the ceiling is the top-tier way to perform CPR. The staff is spiraling harder than a bronze-tier player on a losing streak, killing the room's vibe entirely. Instead of cooling off, the shooter starts yapping at everyone to snap to it like he's leading a raid. You'd think he'd realize screaming at surgeons isn't exactly a high-intelligence healing play. Total lack of awareness. He grabs the elderly lead surgeon by the scruff, proving his negotiation skills are still hard stuck in the tutorial zone. The poor doc tries to mention the specialists aren't even here, but the gunman just wants to be a final boss on a thrift store budget. Massive skill issue. The protagonist decides to finally step out of the shadows, effectively pulling all the threat toward himself. It's a bold move to offer up his talents while staring down a barrel, but maybe he just misses the toxicity of a high-stakes grind. Drop the name as if expecting a standing ovation, causing the old head physician to experience a total system wipe. Seeing the famous red-haired medical prodigy in the flesh has the poor guy absolutely bugging out. Negative aura for the old man. The shooter tries to play the skeptic, acting like he's qualified to evaluate a top-tier healer's potential mid-crisis. He's fishing for a carry, but the reborn surgeon is already running this solo on legendary mode with 0 checkpoints. Our protagonist lays out the cold, raw stats, a 10% survival rate or a guaranteed game-over screen. It's a massive low roll, but when you're already in the hole, you have to push for the crit. Desperation maxing. He claims he's cracked enough to carry this lobby, leaving the senior staff looking like they just watched a level 1 mob wipe out a raid leader. Either he's the greatest talent in the country, or just one surgical error away from being deleted. The gunman has completely fumbled the bag and is now sobbing while waving his piece around like a remote to the great beyond. The transition from intimidating heavy to desperate NPC speedrun in record time. It's over. Our guy immediately resets the power dynamic by ordering the weapon tucked away, clearly sick of the high-latency environment. He's essentially letting the mobster know that being a chaotic liability is a top-tier way to fail the mission. He's built different. After telling the guy to go pray for a drop-rate miracle, he pivots into his kit like he's checking out a mild rash. It's actually absurd how he treats this hostage situation like a minor side quest on his way to somewhere else. The weary mentor tries one more time to warn him that this whole play is peak recklessness. Our hero is already committed to the bit, walking into the OR without looking back at the armed goon squad. 0 hesitation. He snaps on the scrub cap with the expression of a guy who's seen it all before. Even if the patient is a career criminal, his main character energy dictates he can't walk away from the loot drop. No crumbs left on this play. Reflecting on the regrets of his past life, he vows to never lag on another save. He gives the go-ahead, and for a fleeting second, the whole hospital stops mouthing to watch the magic happen. Peak cinema. Meanwhile, the upper management is getting a frantic server-down error message regarding the absolute disaster in their ER. The higher-tier staff is losing their minds, which really is the only reasonable reaction to this entire lobby being turned into a war zone. But while they're crying over the lag, our guy is already speedrunning the whole damn lobby. A surgical ward hallway is packed tighter than a server on launch day. But our guy just bulldozes through the gossiping NPCs like he's playing a different game entirely. It's clear the mob doesn't realize he's already deep in a grind, treating this medical crisis like a standard difficulty check. He's been locked into the operation for 10 hours straight. The rest of the team is struggling to keep their keyboards from melting, while he holds a frame rate they can't even touch. It's a massive skill issue to provide support for a carry who's already reached endgame content. Focus hasn't dropped by a single pixel, even though anyone else would be mouthing from this high-risk extraction. It's peak performance, really, making this legendary tier surgery look like nothing more than clearing out some low-level mobs in a tutorial area. Aura points through the roof. Lore dumps confirm this man is a total power-leveling god who broke the meta by dropping research papers before even getting his hands dirty. Watching those precise maneuvers is like watching a pro streamer hit a pixel-perfect clutch, while the lobby is still figuring out their keybends. The veteran surgeon finally rolls up, expecting a complete server crash, but finds his student calmly talking shop while finishing the heavy lifting. It's tough to keep your status intact when your protege pulls off a miracle while you're out grabbing a coffee break. He's closing up the patient with speed that makes the equipment look like it's being speedrun by a TAS bot. Blood pressure is stabilizing, and just like that, the boss fight ends without a single casualty. Talk about a clean run. Just as the sweat dries, some background extra tries to call him out for recklessness, acting like they've never heard of a desperate play in a losing match. Our protagonist ignores the yap, basically saying the alternative was a game over, so save the critique for someone who cares about your mid-tier opinions. He's clearly got main character energy, refusing to give up on a patient even when the stats look grim. Meanwhile, the underworld boss is lurking nearby with a total look of disbelief. Negative aura. Senior staffer admits he's never seen someone so cracked in his entire career as the doors finally slide open. The guy who runs the local crime syndicate watches the exhausted surgeon trudge out, looking like he just finished a 5-hour session without a single hydration break. The mob man throws his arms around him in a hug strong enough to shatter bones, completely abandoning his tough guy aesthetic for unfiltered relief. Squeezed by a criminal mastermind. That's certainly one way to celebrate a successful operation. He whispers about prayers while clutching the surgeon like a savior. Our guy just beams, soaking up the praise as if it were a new superpower. Main character energy fully maxed. The boss offers a genuine goodbye, trading his usual menace for a moment of actual gratitude before rolling out in his ride. It's a strange shift, and the surgeon looks pretty confused by this abrupt exit from his questline. Dragging himself back to the hospital, he reaches for some quiet time, only to open the room door and find his medical mentor waiting like a final challenge boss. It's like walking into your bedroom after a long day to find a mandatory update prompt waiting, total mood killer. The professor finally drops the ego and admits he was entirely wrong about his student's potential, formally inviting him to take the lead on real surgeries. It's the kind of validation you wait the whole season for, giving his professional reputation a massive buff. His mentor beams while handing over a newspaper that puts our guy on the leaderboard of world-famous doctors, effectively leaking his private stats to the entire public. This is the gaming equivalent of getting your IP address doxed right after a winning stream. Absolute disaster. A scream of pure frustration escapes him because his hopes for a quiet life just got nerfed into the dirt. Meanwhile, the background extras at the restaurant are already reading the tabloid, and you know it's over once the normies start chatting about your grind. But bro's negative aura is about to skyrocket once the hospital NPCs catch wind of this. The hospital locker room is buzzing with gossip about our guy, who is accidentally racking up major points for that surgery stunt. It is peak professional clout, but he just looks exhausted. Then comes his buddy, waving the newspaper like he just discovered fire. The dude acts like his social life is a total barren wasteland whenever his favorite surgeon is not doing something cracked. Leonhi walks into the bar expecting good vibes, but she gets stuck listening to the friend gush about that viral medical hero story. She gets curious about the mystery surgeon and starts digging, not realizing she is basically speedrunning a confrontation about her own messy past. Flashback to the park, where the reborn surgeon gives her that classic rejection speech about being too busy to deal with feelings. Hard L move. Back at the bar, the tension is real because the buddy spills that he knows all about that cringe rejection moment, completely blowing her cover. She is spiraling now, crying in the dark and forced to dwell on one of her most mid-tier romantic memories. It is honestly just tough to watch. Her friend eventually tracks her down in the park to return the items she left behind. It's a quiet moment, but he's keeping her from feeling totally invisible. They eventually decide to just drown the awkward memories in drinks and reset their friendship. Sometimes moving on is just a skill issue you hide with a glass. Meanwhile, the god-tier doctor is rotting in his room, totally mouthing because his crush is ignoring his texts. Total side quest anxiety, and he is losing the weight game. Just as he reaches max stress, his favorite person appears out of nowhere on the street. No shot she just showed up like that. She pulls him into a bear hug, and he has to check if she is real. Seriously, bro is back in the game and feeling blessed. Too bad this wholesome moment is straight up mid, and about to get absolutely cooked, chat. Emi shows up out of nowhere, ambushing our guy for a surprise visit. He's clearly hyped to have her around, hugging her like he just unlocked a rarest tier achievement. This whole romantic detour feels like an optional side quest in a game that's supposed to be about surgery. Total distraction. The terminal vibe check is brutal, with the pair forced into a classic airport-style parting of ways. As she leaves, the guy looks utterly cooked, staring at the stars while she begs him to stop speedrunning his health for a paycheck. Pure emotional damage. Back on the train, he's glued to his phone like it's his only tether to sanity. A sparkly come home screen pops up, highlighting just how lonely his grind has actually become. He's officially back in his solo loop, leaving the wholesome energy at the station. Big oof. He decides to scout the status of his arch-nemesis, questioning if the dude finally stopped his unhinged villain arc. Our guy is twitching with pure paranoia, checking to see if his rival is still hard stuck in a low IQ, murder-maxing playstyle. She drops the news that his rival pivoted to a boring corporate build to act like a normal human heir. This meta shift is honestly more sus than the previous murder attempts. That kind of sudden flip-flop is definitely a sign of a final boss in the making. Krusty flashback reveals the beef started because he was simply too cracked for his tormentor to handle. He clenches a fist, fully glazing his own potential, vowing to rack up enough XP in a new country so his shadow won't even touch him anymore. Meanwhile, the antagonist is wandering through a blood-spattered hallway like a lobby-camping NPC in a high-level raid. The negative aura radiating off him is S tier, setting up the most awkward office interaction of the century. The guy is getting absolutely clapped by his own brain, hallucinating a nightmare sequence that puts his sanity in the red. Seeing his own past self being haunted is a massive skill issue for his mental stability. He wakes up sweating worse than a gamer who glitched his save file right before a boss fight. Yonhee rushes in to play support, but she looks way out of her depth trying to manage his spiraling energy. She clocks his pale, trembling form, clearly worried his stress meter is about to blow. He tries to shrug it off with some weak cope, but he's obviously falling apart faster than a budget console. Things get extra weird when he asks if his crumbling mental state is just a genetic trait. The companion is visibly shaken by the sudden pivot to a medical self-diagnosis. Talk about killing the mood. Just as things seem slightly stable, he breaks into a full-blown scream, turning the room into a theater of pure chaos. His internal firewall hasn't just been breached, it's been nuked from orbit. A heavy memory surfaces of his mother trapped in a glass-filled room, unraveling in real time. It's a tragic breakdown, serving as the origin point for the absolute disaster he's become today. Back in the present, he tries to smooth his face, but those ghost-like memories are still hanging in the background atmosphere. Dealing with this level of misery is clearly a high-difficulty grind he's losing. He flashes a fake smile, pretending his life isn't a laggy, bug-ridden mess of a simulation. She offers some comfort, completely oblivious that she's currently playing babysitter to a total system failure. The perspective shifts to the hospital, where some hired goons are causing a scene, clearly looking to speedrun a prison stay. They're effectively starting a forced escort mission that no one asked for. A suit-wearing thug approaches our guy with all the warmth of a debt collector. Even though he tries to speed dial an exit plan, there's zero chance of escaping this mandatory conversation. The bodyguard reveals he's already triple-checked the doctor's calendar, which is basically the mafia version of hacking your save file to ensure you can't run. Our guy looks terrified while being strong-armed into this unwanted meetup. After a brief mental check of his girlfriend, he realizes he's already fumbled the bag on his promise to stay safe. He rolls up to the opulent estate, knowing this dinner date is effectively a trap. The matriarch of the clan descends like a final boss entering the arena, immediately pinning our guy in a social cage. Walking into this ambush was definitely a low IQ move. At the formal dinner table, she serves up performative gratitude while he tries to maintain some professional dignity. It's a masterclass in cringy small talk, and he's clearly just camping for the exit button. But before bro can peace out, the mafia mommy starts cooking up some unhinged shipping energy. Our protagonist Hwang Moonjin is just trying to survive dinner, but the local mafia boss lady is staring him down like she's already picked out their wedding china. She's locked onto him, deciding this guy is the main character, and she's ready to start her own obsession arc right here at the table. She tries to drop some heavy thanks for saving my life energy, but he just hits her with the most mid-deflection ever, focusing entirely on the salad like a food critic. It's peak negative aura to ignore a literal crime lord flirting with you like this. The guy in the suit just casually drops a bank card with millions on it like a tip, and our guy looks like he's seen a ghost. That's a lot of zeros for someone who usually just needs a coffee to function. He doesn't even blink, just shutting down the payout with a tutorial-tier speech about high-morality coding. He's out here trying to be the hero when he could be living in a penthouse, which is either peak integrity or a massive skill issue. He tries to explain that he likes fat bank accounts, but personal kickbacks from patients are a hard limit. She just watches him ramble away, probably adding another few points to his must-have list. When he tries to pass the hot potato of cashback, the crew basically tells him the transaction is locked to his account forever. The man is trying to play fair in a lobby full of hackers, and he's forced to be rich against his will. They treat the massive sum like loose change, while she sits there internally fangirling over his stubbornness until it's basically a kidnapping threat. This isn't a date, it's a boss fight where the mechanics are just flirting. She keeps baiting him with future visits to the clinic, and our lead is visibly sweating while trying to escape becoming a trophy husband. He really just wants to go home and grind some XP in peace. He tries to make a break for it, but she traps him into an escort quest just to walk her to the lobby. He's officially hard stuck in her side quest until he learns to say no. Back in her lair, the boss lady and her butler are already plotting how to snatch him because he's just that interesting. Casual kidnap chatter usually gets you a restraining order, but for these two, it's just Tuesday afternoon strategy. She starts digging into his backstory like she's checking a Steam profile before a ranked match, specifically hunting for that spicy gossip about his old medical license drama. She wants the lore and isn't leaving without it. The butler spills the tea on how the doctor got framed for a patient death, and it's total villain arc setup fuel. She realizes immediately the whole situation smells like a manufactured plot to keep him down. She gets the name of the Dale Hospital chairman behind the hit, and suddenly everything clicks together like she just solved a level 1 puzzle. Time to see who really holds the cards in this game. With a flick of a finger, she orders a full audit on the chairman, ready to burn down his entire reputation as a thank you gift. The old guy is about to get ratioed by someone with actual power. Meanwhile, the classic antagonist Lee Jong is sitting in his office, smirking like he's absolutely cooked but doesn't know it yet. He thinks he's the final boss, but he's really just a background character in a much bigger story. He's absolutely mouthing in his seat, ranting to himself about how the surgeon is somehow winning at life abroad while his own reputation is in the toilet. The salt content in this room is higher than the entire ocean. He stares at the screen, tracking all the clout our guy is pulling off, top papers and big money, and he just calls him a monster. It's hard to watch him realize his plot line is failing in real time. He suddenly remembers that his mole is at the same hospital, and now he's big mad that he hasn't seen a single update. He's spiraling, and it's only a matter of time before he blows his own lead entirely. But before he can even cook up a plan, this goofy main character energy takes over. Baek Jung-hyun saunters into the hospital like an NPC with main character delusions, totally failing to hide that he's the final boss pulling strings behind the scenes. He effectively corners the chief surgeon to grill him on the chairman's liver health, watching the poor guy sweat bullets as he tries to keep his composure while being ratioed during a simple checkup. After dropping an ultimatum that reeks of negative aura, the suit makes his exit, leaving the senior doctor behind to sit in an awkward, silent void. The moment he's gone, the boss goes full rage mode by punching the furniture, finally listening as his staffer suggests a high-stakes liver transplant. The physician looks terrified about the patient surviving the table, which is basically the medical equivalent of a low-level player trying to speedrun a raid solo. Cornered and desperate, the elderly patient decides that dumping the entire problem onto an overseas facility is the perfect strategy to avoid any personal fallout from a botched surgery. Lee Dongman gets caught in the suit's web, who is busy planting seeds of doubt and pushing for the U.S. transfer like he's running a high-stakes scam. He tracks his father down to find the patriarch playing golf, completely ignoring that his entire health bar is currently blinking deep red. Despite the son trying to reason with him, the old man refuses to drop the act, acting like he has infinite respawns despite his terminal diagnosis. When the junior offers his own liver in a move of pure desperation, the elder snaps, turning genuine concern into an unproductive shouting match. Back on his own, the son decides he's done playing by house rules, gearing up to find the best medical facility in the States regardless of the massive cost. In walks our guy, Hwang Moonjin, absolutely crushing the leaderboard at St. Joseph's Hospital and looking like he's been power-leveling his way to the top of the meta. This man's aura is off the charts as he maintains a perfect rank, treating patients with enough riz to make them forget he's actually putting in exhausting work. It's been a total grind over these past few months, but through pure, sweaty dedication, he's managed to secure his spot as the undisputed GOAT of the ward. He officially snags that professor title and his own swanky office, acting humble even though he's clearly won the entire server by now. But before he can even enjoy the vibes, this absolute gigachad is about to get cooked. Our guy strolls into the hospital office like he owns the place, only for the president to start glazing him hard enough to call him a miracle worker. The boss drops a new contract like he's handing over the keys to the kingdom, acting like keeping our boy on payroll is the only thing keeping the whole medical center from dropping into F tier. He rattles off a laundry list of perks, like a massive salary hike and a luxury suite, basically begging for his signature to keep the plot moving. Seeing his main character vibing in silence makes the suit nervous, so he panic buffs the offer just to stop him from looking at the door. Our protagonist realizes he could have squeezed out even more bread, but he decides this loot drop is enough to keep the peace. He ignores the paper entirely to pivot into his true agenda, forcing a transfer back into the Lion's Den at Deal Hospital. The executive folds instantly without a single question, proving that being built different makes every other NPC in the room look weak. Now he stares out the window, psyching himself up because he knows returning means triggering a rematch with the toxic duo who ruined his past life. Phone starts ringing in the hall like a boss fight alert, and he answers with the cold focus of someone who has already memorized the patterns. He steps into the professor's office, sensing the kind of negative aura that guarantees the conversation is going to be a total grind. The mentor starts grilling him about his essays, calling him out for padding the author list and acting like a total loot ninja. He gets an absolute masterclass in ethics as the academic tears into the concept of gift authorship, telling him to stop clowning and level up his integrity. Just as the heat hits a peak, the older man flips the script, dropping a rare moment of genuine support that catches our guy off guard. The mood shifts from academic scolding to straight-up hate, with the professor labeling the rival chairman as human garbage that hits different. It turns out the big bad was trying to sabotage the career path all along, but the mentor simply ignored the spam calls like a true G. But bro's about to find out zero diffing. The drama was just the start of his mid-tier arc. Our protagonist corners the professor to demand some answers, watching the dude vibrate like a broken NPC dialogue box. He's clearly struggling to take the stuttering mess in front of him seriously. The older man finally ditches the act and drops a folder that basically nukes the antagonist's career. It's a total game changer, revealing all those shady back alley dealings and proving he was just another victim of the system. Scanning the digital paper trail of lies, our guy feels his blood boil with a cold, righteous fury. They both agree on a public takedown. Why bother with a ban when you can just delete the player account entirely? He thanks the senior for the intel, but shuts down any talk of working together on the response. The hero S decided to solo this raid boss, and he's planning a lesson that'll leave his rival permabanned from the clinic. The skyline looms overhead, serving as a high-budget transition screen while the perspective shifts away from the hospital. The real toxicity is moving from the office to the quiet, dark corners of a luxury apartment. Within that penthouse, a woman watches her partner toss and turn on the sofa like he's losing a boss fight against his own brain. His mental stats are cratering, and he's been acting like he's haunted by ghosts after every shift. She pulls a blanket over his shoulders while wondering if the rot in his character is permanent or just a temporary debuff to his sanity. Watching her man turn into a walking disaster was definitely not in the endgame she signed up for. He jolts awake mid-scream, executing a chaotic tactical backflip that sends both of them tumbling onto the floor. It's an absolute fumble of the bag for his dignity, resulting in a high-stress pileup on the living room rug. When she whispers a worried apology about his breathing, he just hits her back with a giga-cringe joke about checking out permanently right in front of her. His aura is officially deep in the negative zone, making for a truly uncomfortable vibe. He gets up to scrub the sweat off his face, muttering that he's the only one who knows how his own body works. She stares at his back, clearly realizing that if he thinks he's hiding his dissent, he is only playing himself. Locked alone in the bathroom, he snaps, hallucinating blood on his hands while his rival's face mocks him from the glass. He's cracked under the pressure, seeing enemies that aren't even there because the guilt trip has hit 100% capacity. His manic, hollow laughter echoes through the flat until the scene cuts to a woman reading calmly over her tea. Talk about peak cinema. The stark contrast between his mental breakdown and her chilling indifference is just top tier. But that vibe check was short-lived, because things get way more cooked for this man immediately. Chairman Lee Jong drops to the floor like he just disconnected from the server during a ranked match, leaving his daughter Lee Himi to absolutely lose her mind, while the staff realizes the paychecks might stop rolling in. The paramedics haul the unconscious billionaire into the ambulance, and while his daughter watches with the kind of despair that screams zero aura, the siren wails like the world's most annoying alarm clock for a failed boss run. In the sterile, depressing halls of Deal Hospital, the son Lee Dongmin gets hit with the kind of bad news that would make anyone want to uninstall life, hearing that his old man is pretty much stuck in a game-over loop. The specialist points at anatomical charts like he's explaining a skill issue to a total newbie, drop-kicking the boy's hopes by confirming that the organ failure is basically an unpatchable server bug. Standing by the bedside, the heir tries to offer up his own liver in a tragic display of peak desperation, while the frail patriarch mumbles about pride and trust like a quest NPC giving a final, useless instruction. Kang Minchul slams the door on any chance of a surgical fix, citing the patient's age and some nasty plumbing issues in the bile ducts that make survival look like a massive negative probability event. While the son tries to process the L, his siblings slide into the room with all the warmth of a malfunctioning refrigerator, already treating their own flesh and blood like a pile of loot to be divvied up. Escaping to a garden bench, the duo of Dongmin and his loyal bro Baek Junghyun decide that if the local doctors are F-tier, they're just going to pack up and head to America to find a carry. They hit the fast-track button and start moving the unconscious boss to a private jet, executing a covert exfil that looks like a plot from a low-budget heist movie. Staring out at the massive skyline of a foreign city, the desperate son vows to make his father respawn on his feet, even if he has to drag this plot onto a completely new server. Our guy swears he'll bring back this guy no matter what. That's a load of pressure, ratioed. When the professor admits that the odds are basically non-existent, the son finally snaps, blowing up at the doctor for being as useless as a tutorial-tier weapon against a high-level raid boss. But before bro can even tilt, the vibe shifts to these clowns with negative aura for days. Our guy strolls in while some entitled suits are busy roasting Professor David for a mid-recovery timeline. These two have all the negative aura of a local office park's clearance bin. One of these clowns starts foaming at the mouth, calling our protagonist a total liability with a suspicious gap in his medical history. He's hard stuck in NPC rage mode, completely whiffing on who actually runs the lobby. The other suit steps in to mute his buddy, acting like he's the final boss of hospital management. He's really out here thinking he's the main character, but he's just grinding a side quest that's gone way over budget. Suddenly, the suit pivots to glazing our guy as a miracle-working carry. The vibe shift is massive, but our man just treats it like he's grinding through another boring level while the others walk off. He zones out, suddenly hit with the debuff of a past surgery that totally fumbled the bag. It's a classic low-point flashback, forcing him to rethink his build before he touches another patient. He starts dropping high IQ theory on his peer, proposing a risky T-stent play to bypass the standard tutorial. It's the kind of cracked strat that separates the pros from the people who just mashed buttons and hoped for the best. Calculating the win condition, he keeps the VIP's granddaughter in mind to prevent her from spiraling. He's prepping a heavy carry build, assuming he doesn't get nerfed by his own team's incompetence. Outside, the weather decides to grief their transfer plans, effectively freezing the whole server. Meanwhile, the granddaughter is spamming phones like it's an emergency lobby extraction. With the map soft-locked, the suits realize they're stuck at this budget hospital with no respawn point. Panic sets in as they finally acknowledge they need the guy they were just trash-talking. Asked about his colleague, the suit starts acting like he's endorsing an S-tier teammate for a high-stakes ranked match. On the other end, the girl is ready to uninstall reality, waiting for a viable play. He's still hyping the doctor like a peak carry, but the line gets cut off. Total skill issue on his timing, because now it's time to actually play the game. Chaos erupts in the ICU as the patient starts crashing hard. The suit is glued to the glass, screaming like he's just realized he lost all his loot. Medical staff drops the news that they are completely cooked due to the blizzard blocking all exit vectors. This is a classic bottleneck encounter where the party has 0 heals left. Everything falls apart as the suit collapses, giving up on the carry. It is a genuine, heavy moment of raw human grief that no gaming term can touch. But honestly, chat, the LS just keeps stacking because this city is absolutely cooked. New York is basically a frozen statue, with a blizzard turning every highway into a silent parking lot. The hospital staff keep checking the windows for a miracle, but nature is clearly forcing them to stay stuck on the tutorial boss. Inside the ICU, the patient's guardian is having an absolute meltdown, grabbing at anyone in a uniform like they're the final boss in a drama game. The medical crew is scrambling to stop the guy on the bed from flatlining, while the air gets thicker than a low-res texture pack. Kang Minchul eventually kills the vibe by confirming transport is off the table, leaving the guardian staring blankly like he just caught a disconnect message. It is a massive skill issue when even the helicopters are too terrified to show up. When the desperate relative screams for an operation, the primary doctor pulls the ultimate pass-the-potato move and points right at our guy. The room goes dead silent, because dropping that name is essentially admitting the bench is deeper than a dry well. Hwang Moonjin holds his ground while the staff bicker over whether this greenhorn is a total fraud or a hidden carry. Someone on the phone is clearly dropping a highlight reel, trying to convince the room that this newbie is actually cracked. The medical breakdown is getting heavy, describing a case that makes elite facilities look like they're playing on easy mode. It is a financial and emotional nightmare of a quest that usually kills the party before they even reach the dungeon. Just as the room is ready to call the GG, the reborn surgeon steps into the frame like he is selecting a fresh loadout for a raid. He volunteers for the suicide mission, leaving everyone else standing there with their brains buffering in real time. The Guardian starts dialing up every top-tier professor in his contacts to make sure he isn't getting trolled. They all confirm the doctor is an absolute unit, turning the atmosphere from "it's over" to "we might actually respawn." Then Lee Jong hops on the line, acting like a pro-tier hater while trash-talking the candidate's license status. It is some grade-A projection from a guy clearly mouthing because he is no longer the center of attention. The surgeon addresses the crew, admitting the liver transplant is a spicy choice, but insisting he is the only one with the stats to do it. It is not just about the loot anymore. He is genuinely trying to play the hero, which is a wild move for a guy who usually keeps his inventory private. Deep in his internal monologue, our guy realizes real life does not always have a respawn button for everyone. He looks at those genuine tears and decides that maybe, just maybe, he can swing this arc toward a win. Finally, he puts his neck on the line for the surgery, breaking through the wall of hopelessness built by the other professionals. The Guardian is openly sobbing, clearly realizing that his father finally found the one player who refused to quit the server. But before Bro can even celebrate, that family's negative aura hits like an absolute truck, chat. Hwang Moonjin tries to calm a jittery donor son before the big day, but the family vibes are basically a dumpster fire. Total structural integrity failure. The surgical squad finally assembles, with Professor David looking frantic while our guy preps his next move like he's speedrunning a low-level dungeon. They start hacking away at the organs, racing the clock in a lobby of sweaty tryhards. Peak performance minus the actual chill. After 4 hours of intense grinding, the first phase is finished, and the surgeon must start the transplant before the save file gets corrupted. He hits a massive crisis of confidence, realizing this high-stakes procedure on an elderly patient is basically a hard-stuck boss fight with no retry. Despite staring into the abyss of his own inexperience, The protagonist doubles down and pretends he has the main character energy to carry the team. He takes a deep breath, prays to the RNG gods, and starts the surgical climax like he's unlocking a secret ending. Meanwhile, the recovery ward turns into a scene of pure chaos as the waking son panics, losing his mind over his father's condition. He's absolutely mouthing at the clock, convinced they've been in the theater way too long and everything is already cooked. Ignoring every shred of logical medical advice, the kid jumps into a wheelchair to go hunt down the operating crew himself. He intercepts the exhausted staff in the hallway, acting like he's ready to force a PvP match if he doesn't get a status update. The senior doctor starts sweating over some technical complications, but the reborn surgeon steps in to handle the family PR like a pro. The kid is basically begging for answers, but one look at the tired medic shows the mission was actually a massive W. It turns out the chairman survived the marathon session, and the whole encounter ends with everyone making it by the skin of their teeth. But bro's aura is already cooked, and the real sweatfest is just getting started, chat. Hwang Moonjin stares down his patient's saline bag like he's trying to speedrun a recovery. The nursing staff is busy spiraling over the surgery risks, but the surgeon is just focused on keeping the billionaire from checking out early. Talk about high-pressure gaming. While this guy wonders if his messy medical past was just a brutal tutorial arc, suits are tallying how much his work boosted the national economy. Being a carry for the entire market is a heavy burden to haul. Skill issue for everyone else. The wealthy heir looks like an NPC caught in a quest trigger, while a relative brings up the inevitable inheritance lawsuits. These people clearly never touch grass. It is pure corporate clown behavior. Word of this miraculous save goes global, turning the hospital into a total zoo. Nobody asked for this media frenzy, proving even a legend gets ratioed by the internet. Major negative aura. The press conference is just a hype train for our guy, as pundits glaze over his mysterious resume. He clearly speedran his way to god-tier status in their eyes. This level of praise is actually mid. The blonde doctor watches the broadcast, thinking our hero pulled off a frame-perfect glitch in real life. If only she knew he was just grinding XP in a white coat. She is staring at a total carry. Back in VIP, the old boss finally wakes up, looking like he just finished a legendary sleep run. Our guy checks the vitals as the patient comes back to life. Definitely peak recovery maxing. Suddenly, the room is swarmed by kids pretending they care just to lock in their bag. None of them have even a single aura point. The desperation is honestly embarrassing. Fed up with these vultures, the boss sends everyone packing except his favorite. A massive W for his peace of mind, though the hallway is filled with mouthing family members. With the floor cleared, the patriarch drops the succession bomb on the kid right as our guy enters for a checkup. Inheriting a legacy is basically the final boss of side quests, hard stuck in a lifetime of meetings now. After a month of grind, the paperwork is finally finalized for the new corporate hierarchy. It is the end of the tutorial, and the real admin tier combat begins. Everyone is clearly over the drama. The big boss shakes hands with a rare show of gratitude, realizing he owes his existence to the scalpel-wielding protagonist. Watching him roll away in that chair is the ultimate thanks for the carry moment. Cooked. But bro's main character, Aura, was about to get tested by some mid-tier plot advancement. Our guy hangs outside, casually refreshing his phone to see the chairman's recovery stats while pretending he isn't the one who carried the whole operation. When a professor strolls up, he just acts like another NPC in this lobby as he hides his main character stats. Total stealth mode. Looking crisp in that fresh white coat, the doctor realizes he's done speedrunning the standard methods. He pivots to drafting a liver cancer research paper that's bound to make his peers look like they're still struggling through the tutorial arc. Talk about a massive skill gap. Inside a luxury penthouse, his old tormentor is busy LARPing as a high society mogul with expensive wine, but his vibes are taking a serious hit. Suddenly, spectral hands materialize holding a phantom glass to accuse him of murder. Talk about a major negative aura spike. The man starts spiraling hard as suppressed memories of his past crimes come back to life, leaving him to wonder if he's cursed or just finally eating the fruit of his mid-behavior. The universe is definitely hitting him with a massive debuff. He jolts awake from that nightmare, clearly the villain of the season, and manages to startle his girlfriend. She leans over, looking genuinely concerned, though she probably regrets checking on such a walking disaster of a vibe. It's over for him. When his lady asks why he's acting so sus, he hits her with a weak excuse about enjoying the view. She suggests a hospital visit for his crumbling mental state, but he hard rejects the advice like he's allergic to common sense. Absolute brick wall energy. She finally realizes he's basically decaying from the inside, so she makes a play to take his drink away. He instantly reverts to toddler mode, throwing a fit because his favorite coping mechanism got snatched. What a professional meltdown. He flashes his fakest, greasiest smile, hoping she doesn't notice the total lack of substance behind those eyes. She stares him down, correctly guessing that his entire personality is just a cheap mask held up by pure spite, ratioed by his own girlfriend. A wave of realization hits her that this relationship is empty, and she genuinely wonders why she's still hanging around this red flag. He suddenly snaps her name, desperate to keep her trapped in his orbit. Desperation level is through the roof. The air in the room goes ice cold while she stands there trapped in the most awkward silence ever. She's questioning every life choice that put her in the path of this living disaster, struggling to find a reason to keep breathing the same air. Negative aura point stacking. Locked behind the wheel, our antagonist keeps arguing with the ghosts in his head, which is basically his new full-time side quest. They won't stop reminding him of his failures, and he's clearly losing this internal boss fight. He goes down a rabbit hole of his own family history, connecting the dots on his genetic inheritance for mental illness. Realizing his downward spiral is just a legacy feature is a massive L for his character build. Hard stuck in the madness loop. His phone starts screaming with an angry call from a superior who has zero chill. The guy on the other end is busy berating him for being an absolute scrub and a public nuisance. Even his bosses know he's cooked. He gets strong-armed into a mandatory quest to Chicago, where he has to play the part of a genius presenter for some suits. He's essentially a puppet on a string now, forced to do the heavy lifting for someone else's glory. After killing the call, he's left stewing in pure frustration, his mind flashing back to our guy's vow to wreck his life. It's the only thought keeping his brain cells firing right now, living rent-free in his head. Catching a news headline about his rival's winning streak, he mutters the word friend, while looking like he wants to hurl his monitor into the street. The coping mechanism is working at absolute zero efficiency. Peak comedy. 2 weeks fly by, and we're parked at a massive Chicago convention hall. The elite doctors are crowding the lobby, probably because they have no idea they're about to witness our guy go God mode on the competition. A blue-haired associate corners our guy, breathing down his neck to not mess up the presentation, while he looks like he's contemplating a total rage quit. The deadline is looming, and his career is basically hanging by a thread. But watch how fast this man flips the script and leaves these NPCs straight up cooked. Our guy is absolutely cooking at this podium, dropping data so cracked the room is reeling. Across the aisle, that bitter old relic is looking like he just ate a lemon while watching the spotlight hit someone he tried to delete from the save file. Fielding these complex questions from world-class unis feels like playing a tutorial on easy mode for him, all while the legacy heir sits in the cheap seats watching his own relevance evaporate in real time. Talk about a skill issue. Whispers are spreading faster than a server crash regarding his glorious exit from the country, and the chairman is sitting there with a vein pulsating in his forehead. He is internally mouthing because the main character just respawned in his lobby. He breaks down bile duct anomalies like he's explaining water to a toddler, and the crowd is hanging on every word. It's peak cinema, especially for the surgeons who spent a decade grinding only to watch him speedrun their entire profession. The surgical simulation video starts hitting the screen, and the room goes dead silent as the elites realize they are watching a masterclass glitch exploit. He's out here breaking standard game mechanics, while the staff is still reading the starter manual. When the talk shifts to failure rates, he shrugs it off like someone too cracked to miss, triggering an instant bidding war from top-tier recruiters. The chat is basically spamming contract offers at him while he maintains zero aura-cost composure. The conference final boss decides to put his rival on the spot, demanding to know if he has a single relevant question. The resulting silence is so heavy it's basically an indictment of his entire mid-tier career. Since the guy stays zipped, our hero leans in to deliver a parting gift in their native tongue that has zero to do with the weather. It is a legendary pro move to ensure the loser stays rattled on the flight home. Staring into the void, the rival finally realizes the gap here isn't just a minor deficit. It is a structural failure of his existence. He is hard stuck in the bargain bin, while the dude he spent years bullying just ascended to god-tier status. Back in the office, a senior professor hands over a legendary quest item by assigning our guy as an exchange professor for his old hospital. The path is set, the mission log is updated, and the return to the lion's den is official. He is slightly worried his earlier sass might backfire, but come on, he's playing 4D chess while the hospital HR department is still struggling with checkers. There is no way they turn down this much free clout, no matter how much they cope. When the news lands, the internal staff acts like they just won the lottery. Knowing a high-level carry on the roster makes their grind infinitely easier. The whole team is basically having a celebratory rave, completely ignoring the inevitable drama heading their way. One colleague is beaming at the news, clearly remembering who was doing the heavy lifting all along. The vibe shift at this clinic is finally happening, steering from a stale basement into a scene of pure hype. Meanwhile, the chairman is losing his mind and screaming at thin air as if his connection just dropped. He fumbled the bag so catastrophically that he is currently mouthing over his greatest threat, about to respawn on his home turf. But hold that thought. because things are about to get even deeper into the negative aura zone. Chairman Lee is losing his grip, finally waking up to the fact that our guy called every play perfectly. The blue-haired professor and his secretary look like they've seen a ghost, realizing their 4D chess board just got flipped. Checkmate. The boss is full-on mouthing now, barking demands to sabotage the exchange program just to flex his fragile ego. That professor is folding under the pressure, proving he has the mental durability of thin drywall. While the suit chugs water trying to reboot his fried brain, the old man watches him like a disappointed parent at a spelling bee. Watching a CEO have a midlife crisis over a medical intern is peak entertainment. They're stuck in the weeds of their own incompetence, realization hitting that their internal power games are literally making them sick. Turns out being a corporate villain is terrible for your blood pressure. Major skill issue. In a display of pure desperation, the leader torches the entire saintly exchange program just to block a win for our protagonist. The board members are staring at him like he just set the company's entire vault on fire. Total L. Back at the meeting, the staff finds out the partnership is dead because of an insecurity tantrum. Our guy sits there calm, already mapping out how to turn this massive headache into his next big power-up. The old man tries to pass it off as business, but everyone sees he is terrified of main character energy. The surgeon just brushes it off, telling his colleague not to sweat the trash-tier politics because he has already won. He makes it clear he isn't going anywhere, choosing to carve his own path when the main route gets blocked. He is officially locked in, and the bad guys are absolutely cooked. Standing in the silence, he checks a text from a producer wanting a sequel to his viral documentary. Apparently, being a genius makes you a content goldmine, even if you'd rather just go touch grass. He reflects on his past fame, wondering if a TV rerun is worth the headache of being a public figure again. The flashbacks prove he was once a total legend, but the grind of the camera lens is just exhausting. Even though his brain screams that more media is a disaster, he knows this is the play to secure his status. He starts typing out a reply to lock in the deal, fully committed to this side quest for the greater good. Fast forward to the main event, where Bro is absolutely cooking these clowns on live TV. Our guy is front and center on TV, looking sharp while publicly roasting the hospital that rejected his transfer. Serious L for them. Meanwhile, the big boss is having a massive gamer rage moment, yelling at his minion for letting a top-tier asset slip away. Suddenly, the heir apparent strolls in, immediately catching the negative aura radiating off his father like a glitchy debuff. He puts on his best NPC mask to dodge the heat, while silently pulling up his smartphone to hit up the competition. Absolute snake energy. The chairman is still spiraling, barking frantic orders as if his reputation is a raid boss currently wiping his entire guild. His son just sits there, looking ready to get ratioed by a lecture while the old man vents about that PR disaster. The executive starts sweating bullets reading the quotes, finally realizing his own skill issue is costing them the entire scoreboard. Cutting the yap session short, the boss demands they secure the doctor immediately, burning whatever cash is needed to fix the fumbled bag. The office is a total dumpster fire, with everyone panic-scrolling as rival hospitals try to snag the MVP before they do. Now the poor middle manager has to eat his own ego and make a call to the team he ghosted last week. He is literally begging on the phone, looking like a man who respawned into the lobby after getting absolutely crushed. Back at the rival clinic, the staff checks in with the main character, who decides it is time to reclaim his throne. Back home, the rival is wearing a grin so fake it should be illegal, clearly plotting something chaotic while his partner stares in confusion. He drops the bait about the surgeon returning, leaving his girlfriend to process a mix of trauma and lingering feelings. He pivots to her health with a weirdly intense stare, acting the part of the concerned partner while Loki playing mind games. But Bro's awkward gaslighting is about to get absolutely ratioed by the cold, hard truth. Himi is speedrunning a breakup, aggressively asking why her man is acting like such an NPC instead of committing. It's painful to watch her fumble the bag while he just sits there, offering zero riz and even less emotional stability. She starts trauma dumping on herself, reliving how she settled for a mid-tier loser just to cope with her unrequited obsession. Its major negative aura points to curation one's own downfall for the aesthetic of not being lonely. Stuck in a 2:00 a.m. existential crisis, she stares at her sleeping boyfriend like he's a puzzle with missing pieces. It's a sad state when your nightly routine is just debating if this whole relationship is a total skill issue. Switching perspectives to the actual GOAT, the reborn surgeon is hitting his parents with the news that he's finally touching grass back home. They are fully prepped to glaze their prodigal son the second he touches down. His notifications are blowing up like a creator getting ratioed by the algorithm, but he clears his schedule for that one specific caller. He answers with the same focus he uses to diagnose terminal cases. The girl is weeping on the line, clearly down astronomical amounts, while he serves up a promise heavy enough to anchor a ship. It's a rare W for their dynamic, though the bar was admittedly in the basement. Our guy is officially checking out of his tutorial zone, shaking hands with every NPC in the hospital clinic to wrap up his global expansion. He's geared up and ready to carry his home team on his back. Even while grinding through the last of his paperwork, he's getting pinged for dinner dates like he's running a charity event for the thirsty. It's a side quest he didn't request, but he's too polite to decline. His dinner guest arrives looking like she's about to start a raid boss encounter, having already sent a rival to the Shadow Realm via text. The power dynamic is shifted, and he's walking into a trap disguised as a five-star meal. She is busy throwing shade at his life choices while he just focuses on the steak, treating her lecture like background noise. He's clearly just here for the protein buff. She deadass insults his diet to justify her concern, then immediately flexes the support system she's putting behind his return. She's basically signing up to be his personal shield in the inevitable drama waiting for him. By offering her company as a literal armor set against his enemies, she's signaling that the endgame is about to heat up. With the backing of a final boss corporation, the competition is officially cooked. But before he can even enjoy that aura, things get real fast. Amy Anderson suddenly pivots from the convo to order a chicken salad. Imagine trying to eat a quiet meal and your corporate overlord decides to play nutritionist instead. Talk about a buzzkill. She gets dead serious about his veggie intake, basically gaslighting him into believing chewing is a high-stakes surgery he is failing. Getting ratioed by a bowl of leaves is a new low for our guy. Even while hiding her real feelings behind that cold medical advice, she is doing the most to keep him on track. Being lectured by a board member feels like a tedious side quest. The meal wraps up with her promising full corporate backup and a weirdly specific request for a wedding invite. He is sweating bullets while she plays 4D chess with his future. Walking home alone, the reborn surgeon overthinks every word she said while clutching his ring for comfort. It is that classic main character loneliness hitting right before the trauma flashback spawns. One thought of a botched liver transplant ruins his vibe and drags him back into his previous nightmare. It is cinematic misery, proving even a genius can get hard stuck in the past. He relives his days as the designated villain in a courtroom disaster he did not even trigger. His whole reputation got nerfed into the dirt due to some shady backroom deals. The memory of the victim's father screaming accusations hits harder than an unblockable final boss attack. When the system decides you are cooked, truth is basically useless coverage. The metaphorical noose of his license suspension tightens as he remembers the fight for his basic existence. Gazing into that abyss of total career failure shows why he is speedrunning life now. Snapping back to the present, he finds the guy named Robert lurking in a luxury car like a professional shadowrunner. He is back in the grind, even if his brain is still buffering. He laughs off his latest corporate abduction, grateful at least he managed to change his doomed fate. Who knew having the cheat codes meant getting chauffeured by dudes who look like government spies? They roll up to a mansion dripping in wealth, where the mother in the red dress is ready to drop the main quest update. Our guy looks shocked by the sheer scale of the flex. She skips the pleasantries entirely, having her assistant hand over a briefcase filled with secrets. It is a classic quest-giver moment, and he is just waiting for the event cutscene to trigger. Expecting cash, he tries to decline, but the documents inside are a massive power-up for his current build. He finally scored the leverage needed to win this godforsaken campaign. But before he can even pop off with his new loot, the plot forces a total reset. Our guy stands in the airport, eyes glued to the sky as the plane descends. He is back to start his grind in Korea, though the whole vibe feels like a tutorial session. Ratioed. Stepping onto the pavement, he checks his phone for patch notes on his home turf. He is just soaking in domestic energy before he turns this entire workplace into a total clown show. The flow stalls when a lady in a gray coat waltzes into the frame, looking like a default skin that somehow stole the spotlight. It is giving major rom-com energy, just with a lot more toxic professional residue. She kicks off the dialogue by roasting our guy for being late, testing his patience with some mid-tier griping. He just flashes a grin, successfully debuffing her anger status before it even stacks up. Suddenly, a rogue bowling ball of a man launches himself into the frame. He crushes both of them in a bear hug that completely disregards personal space, proving that having friends is actually a minor skill issue. This overeager greeter explains to a nearby professor how they sacrificed their busy schedules just to show up. The old guy standing there looks far too dignified to realize he is about to become a key player in this drama. The academic mentors turn the airport into a personal fan club, eventually forgetting the lady in the gray coat exists. Catching the vibe, the protagonist slips her a secret handshake and promises a date to prevent a social catastrophe. Everyone piles into a car, and naturally our guy goes along with the lunch plans. Mentally, he has already logged into the chairman's office, treating this quick meal as nothing more than a waiting room for the main event. His squad pushes for a nap, but sleep is for NPCs who do not have a blood feud to settle. He is hard stuck on a high-stakes objective, so he forces the ride to pivot straight to the hospital. He drops his date at the front door like a stray piece of luggage. Choosing the boss fight over a social life, the protagonist is speedrunning his big return while leaving his buddies in the dust. The bald executive director greets him like a celebrity logging back onto a server, completely unaware that his favorite surgeon is ready to delete the entire branch. Our guy keeps his mask firmly on, playing the legend while the host just keeps glazing. The director begins to break a sweat once he realizes this isn't a friendly gift shop tour. When our guy demands an audience with the big boss instead of checking his workstation, the writing on the wall becomes impossible to miss. He steps into the inner sanctum with the confidence of someone holding all the cheat codes. The chairman looks ready to enjoy a quiet afternoon, totally oblivious that his entire reputation is about to be wiped from the database. As he gets introduced to the surgery chief, the cold shoulder from the rival in the corner is thicker than bad hospital gelatin. He just stands there taking stats, silently noting the rival's complete lack of social software. A white-haired nemesis finally breaks their silence to deliver a greeting that is somehow even worse than the cold shoulder. It is an insult-laden departure, essentially confirming that the aura points are at an all-time low, ratioed. Left alone, the protagonist delivers a polite string of words that sounds exactly like a death threat. The realization hits the boss like a debuff, and confusion quickly morphs into pure, unadulterated horror. The chairman completely fumbles the bag in a fit of pure, unhinged rage. He starts mauling his own secretary while our guy just watches from the doorway, knowing he already cleared the mental fight before it even truly began. With that absolute mid-tier meltdown in the rearview, this man ghosts the drama to touch down. Our guy Jihyun touches down in Korea, acting like the local grind is just a tutorial mission he's already overleveled for. He trades his surgical scalpels for barbecue tongs, celebrating a break like he didn't already speedrun a medical career in record time. Peak vacation vibes. Chulwoo shows up to chug drinks at the grill, which is wild considering this guy used to be the final boss of his childhood trauma. Seeing his old tormentor playing nice is giving me whiplash, but he clearly swapped his bully maxing build for a detective badge and better social skills. They spend the night trading war stories about who dodged the draft, proving even legends spend their downtime gossiping like bottom-tier NPCs. The drunk ex-bully tries to secure a future favor by acting like they're blood brothers. Our lead just humors this totally chaotic move. Crafty. Fast forward and the hospital is suddenly flooded with patients chasing that miracle clout like it's a shiny new weapon in a pay-to-win game. The reborn surgeon is busy saving lives, completely oblivious to his corporate team farming his reputation for those sweet engagement metrics. Marketing brain rot. Some random resident begs him for a lecture, and our guy agrees, probably thinking it's just a low-effort side quest to kill time. Then Minchul, a heavy hitter everyone knows, decides to crash the party, proving even the high-tier players are desperate for a piece of the hype. Suddenly, everyone on the server is spamming for a seat, and the red-haired overachiever looks like he realizes he just triggered a global boss event. The whole thing pivots to the Hilton, because why keep it local when you can monetize a simple talk into a massive pay-to-win spectacle? Absolute cinema. It's branded as the premier event for the world's most overhyped surgeon, luring the elite like they're moths to a very expensive LED bulb. The hotel is packed to the gills with corporate sellouts and famous faces, turning what should be science into a glorified networking mosh pit. Meanwhile, an antagonist is busy pressuring a professor to crash the debate because his entire personality is just being a professional hater. Sad. The plotter really wants a public breakdown, looking insecure enough to need a tutorial on how not to be a walking L major cope. The symposium hits max capacity while the famous guest kicks things off, leaving our hero waiting in the wings like a nervous rookie. It's over. He finally steps into the spotlight, staring down a crowd hungry for drama, but he's already built different and doesn't even twitch. Giga Sigma energy. But before that aura could even settle, this man decided to turn the whole server chaotic. Hwang Moonjin is absolutely cooking at this symposium, farming XP off trash mobs while the audience gawks in pure shock. It is a total flex that makes his past failures look like an F-tier speedrun gone wrong. Meanwhile, the hospital supervisor finds her chill midair as the chairman's right-hand man drops a bombshell call. She's basically a side character, realizing her whole story arc just got nuked from orbit. This high-level enforcer demands our guy take over as the big boss's physician, leaving that admin lady looking like her entire save file just corrupted. It's an insane promotion that turns his career path from a crawl to a vertical climb. With the higher-ups barking orders, the backroom deals are leaking into the hallways, proving that even in a clinic, it is all about who you know. It's over for the competition before they could even optimize their own builds. The cafeteria gossip mill is officially off the rails, with everyone speculating if the protagonist is about to speed glitch all the way to the CEO chair. It is pure brain rot fuel for the staff, who are clearly just salty about his main character energy. He strolls into the private suite, and the patient is practically reciting a gospel of gratitude for being saved from the brink. The surgery was a total win, and the recovery is ready to hand over the keys to the entire kingdom. The doctor reviews the charts like a pro, checking every stat to ensure the patient doesn't accidentally trigger a fail state. It is basic maintenance, but with his track record, even a routine checkup looks like top-tier gameplay. That chairman drops a heavy reminder about a debt of honor, basically handing over a blank check and a free pass to ask for whatever his heart desires. He's being told to name his price, and the tension is thicker than a mid-season drama cliffhanger. He gets all jittery and starts fumbling, acting like he is trying to romance a locked character while the boss is just waiting for the prompt. It's an awkward fumble that proves even a gigasurgeon can stay hard stuck in social tutorial mode. When he finally spits out a request to date the granddaughter, it is a masterclass in being down bad and absolutely terrifying at the same time. He wasn't asking for cash or power, but for a shot at love, which is honestly the ultimate high-risk side quest. He smooths over the awkward silence by suggesting a home visit, leaving the old man intensely hyped for the sequel. It is a classic move to stall for time while the plot thickens. Across town, Lee Sangman sits in his dark office, deep diving into medical databases like he is trying to troubleshoot his own brain. His mental stats are clearly in the red zone, and he has negative aura leaking from every single pore. The memories hit him hard, specifically thoughts of his mother who struggled with the same mental weight, making his spiral look like a tragedy in the making. It is a dark backstory that explains why he is basically a final boss with a broken inventory. Things go south in the middle of a high-stakes surgery, where reality starts glitching, and he begins hearing voices telling everyone to just give up. It is a total breakdown in real time, and the surgical team has no idea they are operating with a loose cannon. He manages to pull himself back to reality just in time to get roasted by an attending for his sloppy performance. He's lying through his teeth to mask the mental instability, but his eyes look like they have stared into the void and didn't like the view. Everyone is noticing he is not the same elite operator he used to be, acting like he is completely cooked on the inside. It's a total skill issue caused by reality-shattering stress. The surgery technically wraps, but he shuffles out looking like he needs a total system reboot just to keep standing. You can practically hear the low battery alarm blaring as he drifts through the halls. Standing in the ICU, he watches the recovery stats of the patient the protagonist saved and starts plotting some truly unhinged sabotage. It is a desperate move from someone who is clearly just malding because he couldn't keep up with the competition. But before he can even cook, this clown's about to get pressed by a total NPC. Our guy is getting cornered by his old classmate Lee Sangman, who looks like he's about to have a mental breakdown while trying to play detective over some routine patient files. The rival is trying to act like a private investigator, accusing him of using basic hospital checks as a shady cover for some kind of big, brain-rotted conspiracy. The hostile classmate is busy threatening to kick him off the server and out of the entire medical world, while our guy just smirks like he's found a glitch he can exploit for free experience points. He really thinks he's the final boss, but honestly, his aura is drier than a career guidance counselor's after-school lecture. Suddenly, it's a total shift to a dark, haunted hallway vibe where shadowy NPCs are reaching out to grab him, turning this whole thing into a low-budget psychological thriller side quest. Back in the real world, the sunlight returns, and his girlfriend Lee Himi comes sprinting over to apologize for being late, acting like she just fumbled a major meeting. They're in the car, and she's absolutely bewildered because our guy pulled up in a dapper suit, which is definitely the main character skin he unlocked for this specific mission. They pull up to the massive estate of the big-deal chairman Lee Heejang, and the girlfriend finally realizes she's being driven straight into the final boss arena for a marriage proposal showdown. She is hovering at max panic levels about meeting her grandpa, but our guy just grabs her hand like he's initiating the most high-stakes quick-time event in gaming history. The chairman's long-suffering assistant is basically staring at a car crash in slow motion, watching the pair walk through the doors like they own the entire building. Inside the mansion, the grandfather gives a lukewarm welcome to the doctor, and the girlfriend makes the formal introduction, fully loading their party into the boss room. Our guy drops the news that he's the boyfriend with all the casual energy of a guy showing up to a raid without a secondary weapon. The girl's uncle is busy glazing our protagonist, calling him a world-class savior, and basically acting like a cheerleader who's already decided the outcome of the match. The uncle is pretty much begging for the chairman's blessing, acting as the hype man while the patriarch sits there looking like he hasn't blinked since the 90s. The big boss finally speaks, letting him know he can take home anything in the house except his granddaughter, which is a massive debuff to his winning streak. They start a drinking game with top-tier whiskey, which is brutal because our guy is basically playing with an empty inventory since his alcohol tolerance is absolute garbage. After the drinks, the old man kicks everyone out so they can have a private chat, which we all know is just code for a high-intensity interrogation loop. The patriarch gets straight to the point, staring him down and demanding to know if he understands the absolute catastrophe of their family's inner politics. He lays out the entire tragic lore of his family, from infidelity to murder, showing that his cold-blooded exterior is really just a shield for a guy who's been carrying too much emotional baggage. But before Bro can even process that mid-tier trauma dump, the vibes get absolutely cooked. Chairman Lee is playing bartender, trying to force-feed booze to the red-haired medical prodigy while Himi desperately yaps to stop the madness. Total negative aura. Under the moonlight, Dongmin looks like he is trying to process a math test, sweating over the fallout of a marriage bombshell. Our guy hits the grandpa button, basically speedrunning the inheritance talk while reminding the patriarch that a deal is a deal. The old man drops a fortune cookie cryptic line about timing, leaving the assistant baffled by the sheer vagueness of it all. Classic NPC dialogue. The vibes shift to dry business talk about the hospital's failing reputation, trying to stop the bleeding before it becomes a total joke. Finally, the board members grow a spine, calling for a total reroll on the air since Sangmin's bloodline is carrying the team. An epiphany hits the patriarch as he imagines a wedding. He realizes the surgeon could be the perfect buff for the hospital's dying stats. Meanwhile, the legacy hire is catching absolute heat in his office, choosing to nuke his own desk instead of coping with the rumors. The heir is currently throwing a tantrum loud enough to wake the building. His aura is bottom tier before a secretary interrupts to ruin his streak. Our protagonist saunters in like the server admin, while the flustered rival tries to act tough despite being clearly cooked. As the fake nice rival vibrates with pure anxiety, the surgeon pulls up a chair to begin a cold, methodical verbal takedown. He calls back to a tragic internship chapter, remembering a patient's death caused by a drunk superior's negligence. Hard to watch. The pleasantries hit the dumpster as the surgeon drops the hammer, accusing the corrupt heir of having his fingerprints all over that disaster. The villain tries to play the victim card, sputtering like a script kiddie caught hacking, demanding proof for these claims. Unbothered, the lead just drops a heavy stack of files on the desk, straight-up career-ender tier paperwork. As those emails surface, the heir's color drains instantly, realizing his paper trail just caught up and the trap is sprung. It is a laundry list of unholy sins, from bribery to embezzlement. This is a final boss reveal that the antagonist was never ready for. The ultimatum is delivered with chilling grace, demanding a total surrender of the hospital before the law finishes the job. He saunters out, leaving his rival standing in the wreckage of a future that's clearly hitting a game-over screen. Left alone in the silence, the shell-shocked heir tries to cope, but his body language confirms he is completely F-tier. It is over. But before our guy can even process the L, someone else starts acting terminally cooked. Chairman Lee is having a total meltdown, trashing his office like a toddler denied screen time. His emotional regulation is basically non-existent. Classic skill issue. Our guy Hwang Moonjin stands there completely unfazed, dropping facts like receipts, and telling the boss man exactly where he can stow his pride. He is demanding a full takeover of the operation immediately. Suddenly, the tension gives this CEO a physical wake-up call to the chest, proof that greed really has negative aura. When his lackeys try to offer help, he shoves them off like they're mid-tier bugs. Panicking about his family finding out, he decides to offload the trash onto a scapegoat. He summons the professor, looking about as ready as a kid who walked into a pop quiz with zero prep. The professor tries to plead for mercy by blaming previous instructions, but his superior hits him with a masterclass in gaslighting. It is peak villainy, even if the scheme is totally cracked. The boss physically towers over the guy, forcing a confession for a fake retirement package. He is sacrificing his only pawn to hide the fact that his kingdom is getting cooked. As the realization hits that he is literal expendable fodder, the professor feels his own survival instinct kick in. He is essentially a lizard trying to grow back a severed tail. Looking out at the skyline, he decides being a fall guy is F-tier strategy. He pulls out his phone to switch sides and call our guy instead. While the hospital staff is busy glazing everyone involved in the latest surgery, our exhausted hero is just napping on a couch. He is hard stuck in sleep-maxing mode, ignoring the entire side quest of corporate politics. The rival surgeon acts like he is worried about interrupting, claiming he'll leave to let the sleeper rest. It is clearly just a convenient cover for his next move. Instead of exiting, the rival sticks around to lurk in the doorway with enough negative aura to ruin a vibe instantly. He stands there looming like some bottom-tier side boss. He reaches out with zero finesse, likely thinking this constitutes a real play. He is clearly trying to speedrun a disaster while his target is completely vulnerable. Just as the move peaks, he suddenly recoils in a panic. He realizes trying to finish off a sleeping doctor is just massive, irredeemable cringe. The sleeper wakes up and asks what that was all about, but the rival tries to bluff his way through a failing charisma check. Total bot energy. Ignoring the weak excuses, our protagonist lays out a cold, hard ultimatum. Both conspirators are going to get ratioed into oblivion, and there is no escape. Back at home base, the main villain is popping meds like candy to soothe the massive headache his own bad choices created. His health bar is rapidly depleting. He sits there crunching numbers on how to bury the evidence and keep his family in the dark. It is all about damage control for a rapidly sinking ship. The real panic sets in when he realizes the marriage threat is the true final boss. He is officially mouthing over the idea of losing his grip on the legacy. Desperate, he settles on a simple plan to manipulate the granddaughter directly. He is really spamming low-level tactics now that it is clear he is totally cooked. But before he can even cook, this absolute NPC loses his mind entirely. Chairman Lee is throwing a full-blown toddler tantrum, hurling his phone because his daughter won't pick up the line. Watching him pivot from high-profile hospital boss to frantic mess is just bottom-tier energy, ratioed by his own schedule. Deep in the endoscopy room, the lead surgeon stays focused on the actual grind, shielded by sterile walls from his cringe breakdown. She's keeping her cool while the rest of the staff braces for a total circus. Then he storms in, ignoring basic hospital etiquette to act like a final boss who got nerfed into an unwanted side quest. He's really out here thinking he can control the room. Himi shows some serious main character energy, refusing to drop the biopsy just because a boardroom clown wants attention. Ignoring a potential cancer diagnosis is a massive skill issue, even for a guy with his ego. He physically grabs her, proving he has zero respect for boundaries or the life on the table, sparking enough chaos to get fired instantly. He's reaching for a power-up, but honestly, he's just leaking negative aura. She finally snaps, calling him out for putting pride before a patient, and you love to see our guy get absolutely bodied. It is like watching a level 1 mob try to status effect a raid boss. The tormentor lingers in the hall looking like a kicked puppy scripting a war crime, just waiting for his next window. He's grinding his reputation into the dirt. He might as well log off. As soon as the procedure finishes, he drags her out like a prop, totally disregarding her agency, truly putting the L in leadership by manhandling his own kin. She fights back in the corridor, trying to break his grip while he forces this pointless interaction. It's exhausting watching him try to carry a convo that adds nothing to the party. She gets cornered and instinctively apologizes, which triggers a flashback of her crying as a child, setting the moment she decided to sever the family tree forever. Some bridges are better burned, chat. He switches to a fake, friendly persona, convinced he has enough charisma to smooth-talk her past trauma. It's excruciating to watch this clown try to pivot to business after a lifetime of neglect. Then the suit starts dangling her fiancé as leverage, trying to weaponize her social circle to save his crumbling empire. He's fishing for a favor by torching his last shred of family. He has the audacity to touch her shoulder, calling her naive, clearly speedrunning his own descent into total irrelevance. Imagine thinking manipulation is a personality trait. The surgeon gets pulled back into memories of the abuse, flashing to a time when her mother was her only sanctuary. It's a brutal look at how deep these scars go. The story reveals how his infidelity and a forced domestic situation broke her mother, basically proving this whole household was playing on hardcore mode from day one. She faces the tragic reality of her past, blaming him for the suicide she discovered, while he tries to deflect with vague talk about depression. He's hard stuck in the guilty zone. She finally declares him rotten to the core and cuts him off for good, leaving him stunned. Clearly, his typical loot crate intimidation tactics aren't dropping any success here. He ends the sequence by throwing a tantrum and threatening her, but the protagonist simply refuses to budge. Watching him fumble the bag this hard is absolute cinema. But honestly, chat, our guy's zero-aura move is about to get even more cooked. Hwang Moonjin is finally done with the act, calling out his boss for being a total menace to the man's own daughter. Talk about a peak toxic parenting arc for everyone involved. He decides it is time to exit this side quest, shielding Himi from the chaos and telling the old mogul he is officially off the clock. His old tormentor is throwing a tantrum like a toddler losing his favorite toy, screaming at their retreating backs. Talk about negative aura. Our hero enters corporate headquarters with the energy of a guy speedrunning a final boss, leaving the reception desk looking absolutely rattled. Skipping the knock to save time, he kicks the door open and interrupts the executive mid-delusion, completely catching the guy slipping. Kim Chulwoo drops the hammer, presenting a list of crimes as long as a receipt's roll and slapping cuffs on the tycoon. The mogul laughs, but he is clearly cooked. The professor strolls in to seal the deal, happily throwing his former boss under the bus to save his own skin. Absolute rat behavior. He spills every dirty secret, proving the man in the white coat actually saved lives while the mogul was busy being peak mid with his corruption. No crumbs left. Watching the high and mighty villain flop around like a landed fish while resisting is pure cinema. The guy really thought he was untouchable. That detective shuts down the entitlement, dropping the bomb that this grudge is personal because of his own father. A classic case of instant karma. The guy gets dragged away, still trying to act tough while shoved in a cruiser, as the scene shifts to an empty house at dusk. Lee Dongmin delivers the bad news to the grandfather, who looks like he aged about 4 decades in a single heartbeat. Total skill issue on family management. The patriarch just wants to rot in the silence, officially finished with his son's train wreck of a life. He is clearly not vibing with this outcome. While the elder sobs, a relative creeps in, definitely not there for comfort, but to start panicking about the public fallout. Such main character energy, but make it awful. Cursing his own bloodline for this disaster, the family head declares the legacy cooked, cutting to the former mogul already rotting in a cell. Behind bars, the corporate kingpin tries to pull rank, but his tattooed cellmate just tells him to sit down. This guy is hard stuck in reality Checksville. He is still convinced his status matters, rambling to concrete walls and unimpressed criminals. It's over for this guy, honestly. When the emissary returns to drop the news that his own father is ghosting him, it is officially curtains. His season of relevance just got speedrun into the ground. But before our guy can even process this the whole server is already getting scrubbed. News outlets are oddly quiet about the massive Deal hospital scandal, suggesting the hush-money budget for this server wipe is absolutely massive. In the courtroom shadows, our guy watches the former chairman get hard stuck in a losing streak as the legal hammer finally drops. Ratioed. They share a balcony moment, a stark reminder that the disgraced executive fumbled his entire legacy for a bit of ego-maxing. Negative aura. Then Lee Jin-hyun corners the main character in the hallway for a high-stakes conversation, clearly catching him unprepared for this side quest. The ousted boss spots our guy and decides to rage-quit reality, throwing a chaotic fit that proves his build is completely nerfed. He lunges for the throat, still convinced he can clutch a win despite being deleted from the leaderboard. Total skill issue. Guards scramble while the villain has a full-blown meltdown, blaming everyone but himself for his broken install. We love to see the cope. His unhinged screaming hits the panel with such sonic force it's basically pixel-vibrating brain rot. It's over. Suddenly his health bar hits 0, and he drops like a puppet with the strings cut, the final animation for a total system crash. The reborn surgeon immediately drops into medic mode, scanning for vitals while wondering if the guy's internal OS was ever even functional. Things get literal in the ICU when tests confirm a massive brain tumor. He spent his life being a headache, and now he finally has one. Staff confirms surgery is the only play left on the board, showing exactly why a master rank carry keeps his cool under pressure. The operation is a technical W, but the patient remains paralyzed, leaving him permanently AFK as poetic justice for his past sins. Back in the corridor, the younger brother looks like he just finished a legendary grinding session and is dumping his baggage on us. He pivots to a wholesome side quest, begging for protection for his niece because his own household is a total dumpster fire. Over a meal that costs more than my entire PC setup, he tries to bait our man with a job offer, clearly fishing for a carry. With the board of directors now empty like a dead server lobby, he's desperate to fill those ranks with someone who isn't a NPC. When the promotion to hospital director hits the table, the look of pure confusion on our guy's face is peak entertainment. He starts speedrunning excuses about his age and lack of corporate XP, which is basically a humble brag against the system. The offer gets a hard pass, as he explains his current grind in the States is far more important than some local promotion. Jin-hyun takes the L gracefully, pivoting to ask for a referral because he clearly still needs someone else to hold the bag. Little did he know, the real cringe was just loading in with infinite negative aura. Kang Mincho looks like a deer in headlights trying to fix his tie while his buddy arrives with a bouquet. The vibes are radioactive. Our guy stands there like a prop during his own ceremony while the staff claps. Talk about a budget mannequin. Back in the office, the new boss is speedrunning budget cuts like a sweaty gamer deleting files. Truly mid-management. Some suit is glazing the new tactics hard, and the chairman pulls the classic move of locking his new grandson-in-law into the family circus. Watching the family force smiles through the pain is a tough look. The reborn surgeon is coping hard with his negative aura. Big yikes. The old man is hitting the doctors with zero chill energy, demanding wedding plans immediately. Bossy NPC behavior. It's peak comedy watching the bride point at random real estate while the medic pushes the wheelchair. Side quest unlocked. The chairman is hijacking the entire event, and the couple realizes they're about to get worked into the ground. It's over. A random montage of wedding gear hits the screen, and our guy realizes the tutorial arc for marriage is basically a permanent debuff. The bride looks fire in her dress, but the grandfather begging for compliments on his own outfit is total boomer energy. Ratioed. The patriarch is actually crying over a heartfelt family moment. We'll skip the roasting for this one. His fiancée offers a sweet smile, and the medic locks in a secret mental promise against the sunset. Pure cinema. Standing at the crosswalk, the lead feels like he's actually winning the game of life with that massive bank balance. Cracked. The vibe dies when his phone buzzes like a server crash is coming. The main character energy just plummeted. Some clown on the line is LARPing as a villain with a threat. Honestly, the cringe is radiation level. Robert jumps out with a plastic toy, pulling a prank so it physically hurts. Total skill issue. The squad is back for a reunion that literally nobody asked for. These shopaholics definitely got lost. They're crashing the wedding plans like they own the venue, then drop a comment about business. Sketchy as a modded save file. He's trying to map out a path to dump his old enemy, but the real final boss is still looming. He's cooked. The mysterious guy drops a weak cliffhanger before heading out. That smile is just begging to get ratioed. Anyway, ignore that mid-tier bait because this absolute crash-out is about to get way worse, chat. In the dead of night, Robert is out here huffing darts like he's trying to summon a final boss, while our guy saunters up looking for a tactical edge. Talk about negative aura. This dude hands over a box like it's a legendary loot drop, but it's just a fancy fountain pen. Turns out this setting is so hostile even your stationary needs a safety switch. Peak cringe. Upon realizing his new equipment is basically a budget stun gun, the bro looks absolutely rattled while the woman in the car insists he takes it, pushing their agenda harder than a mid-tier mobile game ad. They spend the moment dissecting the hospital drama like they've spent more hours stalking their target's life than some obsessed fan tracking a celebrity's private jet itinerary. He shuts the whole yapping session down because he's not feeling the vibe, essentially trying to mute the chat before the toxic levels spike any further. Skill issue on their part. Stuck in the hospital parking lot like he's waiting for a bus that's never pulling up. Our guy broods over the lack of justice, speedrunning a pity party arc like we have nothing better to do. He finally decides to tuck the pen away, likely realizing that without it, his chances of surviving the current meta are about as slim as his base defense stats. Stay safe out there, champ. Meanwhile, the reborn surgeon is strolling through the halls like he owns the joint, radiating main character energy, while everyone else looks like generic background furniture in this server. He confirms with an admin that the contract termination was his own handiwork, ensuring that his old tormentor stays hard stuck in the unemployment queue for the foreseeable future. Absolute savage. Checking his device during his victory lap, he finds a notification about a hangout, prompting a classic, "Come over to the cafe" quest marker. It is on. The lady is sitting solo at the local cafe waiting for his arrival, staring at the door with the same nervous energy as a dude waiting for his delivery apps to stop glitching. When he sits down to meet her, he starts spiraling with that overthinking energy that makes you wonder if he's trying to sabotage his own romantic social link on purpose. He's busy stressing about how his professional chaos might act as a debuff on her medical career, failing to realize he's just dumping way too many skill points into unnecessary anxiety. She says she just wanted his company, and he finally stops sweating long enough to drop that $1,000,000 smile, though it looks a little too practiced for a simple coffee date. They walk to a local bar for drinks, dragging the plot from the dry conversation into that drowning feelings in liquids territory that every anime lead inevitably discovers. Sitting in a dimly lit booth surrounded by glasses, she starts leaning into a serious talk, ready to move past the small talk and dump some heavy lore on him. Oh no. She reaches over to grab his hand, attempting to unlock a secret support skill before the clock runs out on this outing. Trying a bit too hard, maybe. She gets super real and confesses he's become a core part of her life, a high-tier emotional payout that he definitely didn't earn by just being a smug gamer. Total W for the lady. Instead of playing it romantic, he trolls her by ranking her second, effectively trying to speedrun his way into the single and available leaderboard with one legendary bad take. He laughs off her annoyance and immediately pivots to asking for a vacation, proving he knows exactly how to manipulate the meta when he gets cornered. Gigabrain move. He flexes his status by offering up a suburban mansion for the trip, and she coyly agrees, proving once and for all that being loaded is a top-tier cheat code for relationships, built different. But sadly, the bag-chasing sessions end when the grind decides to fully cook our guy instead. Our guy is crunching files at the office while his exhausted mentor passes out behind him. Talk about zero chill. Then this coworker drifts by, desperate to stir the pot by dropping some spicy hospital gossip in the middle of our shift. She whispers that a certain colleague is dating the local problem child, proving the facility is just jammed with NPCs being absolute goobers. The reborn surgeon remembers this person was his wife in a previous run, but he's already moved on and finds the current drama mid at best. Sitting alone at his desk later, the vibe goes sour as a sinking feeling hits that she might actually be in real trouble. Suddenly, his phone starts screaming for attention with a caller ID that makes him go completely pale. His hand hovers over the device like he's caught in a lag spike, struggling to decide if this is a genuine emergency or just bait. The professor wakes up with the elegance of a startled raccoon, clearly failing to pass his perception check on the situation. Our guy rockets into the hallway, sprinting like a speedrunner while hammering his phone to summon some backup. The buddy picks up in a shady spot, getting hit with the news that their friend just got snagged by the hospital's biggest failure. The ally starts mouthing over the comms, while the protagonist keeps tearing through the halls, shouting about weapons like it's a frantic boss fight prep. Speed dialing through the dark, he catches snippets of the victim's voice on the line, and she sounds completely cooked. She's begging for a meetup while clearly being fed lines, signaling this is a trap set by someone who desperately needs to go touch grass. A quick look at the feed confirms the villain is hovering nearby, desperately trying to look menacing despite his Tier F aura. Clenching the steering wheel so hard it might snap, he recognizes this is a low-effort play from an antagonist who fumbled the bag. He checks the hidden tool in his pocket, calculating his odds while eyeing a nearby cruiser like he's scouting the map for potential support. Driving through the night, he keeps his focus absolute, laughing internally at how amateurish the opposition's strategy remains. He arrives at the house and rings the bell with cold energy, ready to enter the den of a guy who needs an ego check. The antagonist greets him with a smug grin, totally oblivious that his hostage is passed out on the couch behind him like she's already checked out. But bro's about to walk into the ultimate cringe fest when our guy kills the vibe entirely. Hwang Moonjin drifts into the room like he's lost his map, only to spot the kidnapped girl snoozing on the furniture, while her deranged host acts like this is a normal hangout. The captor immediately questions our guy's arrival, trying to frame this whole hostage situation as a casual afternoon catch-up. He starts yapping, trying to gaslight the room into thinking he merely rescued the lady by force. He's fishing for aura points by claiming she matters, but this logic is reaching terminal levels of mid. Next, the villain slides a chair over and pours a glass as if they're old college buddies. Watching him fake this Sigma persona is pure, unfiltered secondary embarrassment. The main antagonist offhandedly threatens to blab his entire criminal record if he finishes the bottle. The protagonist goes completely blank, realizing his enemy is speedrunning an immediate life sentence. They toast with lukewarm vibes, while the bad guy promises there's no spike in the drink. Our lead sips it with all the caution of a pro player checking for traps in a basement dungeon. While playing nice, he's silently begging for a full confession loop. Outside, a detective sits in the getaway car, listening to this dumpster fire of a play-by-play and prepping for the raid. Then he pulls out a vintage whiskey bottle, hoping for a nostalgia patch to override the current legal disaster. It's like watching a player desperately trying to load a save file that's already corrupted. Flashback montage hits the screen showing their high school days, full of awkward grins and study sessions that look like a mod for a series that shouldn't involve this many crimes. Looking back, it's clear they were hard stuck in a perpetual, toxic PvP match. He tried to run a support build, but the other guy was clearly min-maxing for total world destruction. The protagonist clears his mental cache of those cozy vibes, snapping back to reality. He's strictly here to drag the criminal out in cuffs. Sentimentality is just a debuff he can't afford. Sick of the small talk, the antagonist drops his icy mask and demands the bottom line. Our guy keeps his guard up, preparing for a frame-perfect counterattack. Suddenly, all pretenses shatter as the criminal admits he's been hate-stalking him for years. It's a total 180 that leaves our hero blinking at the sheer absurdity of your standard-issue grudge. Then comes the classic rough childhood monologue meant to justify his villain arc. It's a textbook tragedy that ranks as an absolute snooze fest in terms of emotional impact. Despite our lead being the only one who didn't totally ignore him, the guy confesses he still wants to delete him from existence. The basement dweller energy here is off the charts. He starts bragging about his kill count like a toxic gamer showing off a high rank, even mentioning he took out his own brother. Talk about a massive skill issue regarding basic family values. He confesses that his path to the top was just a desperate attempt to flex on those who treated his mom like trash. He's essentially role-playing a tragic hero while acting like an bottom-tier NPC. The criminal admits he kept failing the metagame, so he tried to cheat by giving the hero a fatal clotting disorder. That is an F-tier strategy if I've ever seen one. He tosses in the murder of a chairman's daughter just for flavor, not realizing the wire is recording everything. This confession is basically a free, one-way ticket to a permanent prison stint. When asked why he's blabbing about his death penalty crimes, the antagonist reaches for a fancy pen like it's a legendary item. No cheats needed to see this conversation is officially cooked. He draws the device, suddenly aiming to finish the match while the hero screams effectively at a wall. Panic mode is active. We're about to see if his plot armor can actually tank this gadget. Spoiler alert, that plot armor is looking mid and his negative aura is about to skyrocket. Our guy finds himself in a cringe standoff with an old rival who is LARPing as a budget action hero. It's hard to tell if he's trying to be a menace or just needs to touch grass, but pointing a cannon at a former colleague is bottom-tier behavior. The antagonist drops a revolver on the table and demands a duel like he's in a bad western. He gives him 5 seconds to pick it up, which is a desperate mid-attempt at a redemption arc. As the timer counts down, our protagonist is sweating bullets. He is looking at that metal hunk like he accidentally equipped a cursed item in the middle of a raid. The villain starts dumping emotional baggage to gaslight his way through the tension. He's clearly spent way too much time malding in his basement instead of fixing his own life. With 2 seconds remaining, the guy is basically foaming at the mouth. He keeps screaming for his victim to pull the trigger. It's peak negative aura, no cap. Our guy finally snaps and reaches for the iron. He is fumbling his decision-making like he's trying to speedrun a game he just downloaded. It's a total skill issue. He manages to grab the gun, but the dude on the other side is just smirking. This entire encounter feels like a side quest that went completely off the rails. Our protagonist is busy convincing himself that homicide is just a fancy form of self-defense. He's basically drafting his legal defense strategy on a mental napkin while holding the weapon. The narrative dives into a blurry flashback. They are making intense eye contact that screams they both need to take a long walk outside. A massive sound effect hits the screen. It is just the visual equivalent of a cheap jump scare in a bottom-tier horror flick. In the hospital, our lead tries to act like he didn't just survive a murder-suicide pact. He is white-coating it up and trying not to look completely wrecked for the squad. Then a teammate busts in with a functioning brain and shoots the gun right out of the target's hand. The most cringe-filled standoff in recent history gets shut down instantly. The villain ends up face down in cuffs while the police flood the scene. So much for the final boss energy when you end up in a holding cell. Since he stayed silent during the interrogation, he gets a life sentence to marinate in his regrets. Good riddance to all that yapping. Now the protagonist is chilling on a park bench under a clear sky, acting like the whole nightmare is finished. It was a rigged game that finally got ratioed by silence. He is still grinding on the details, wondering why the standoff felt so hollow right at the buzzer. Your brain really likes to rewatch the cutscenes when you're bored. The flashback reveals that at the 1 second mark, he just couldn't commit to the bit. Turns out he's not the cold-blooded operator he thought he was. Time slows down to a crawl as the silence stretches between them, as if the game engine crashed before the main fight could even execute. The antagonist had a golden opportunity to finish the job, but sat there doing nothing. Talk about being hard stuck in F-tier performance for eternity. During that final pause, the guy had a weirdly pathetic look on his face. It's like he finally realized he fumbled his entire existence in real time. Sitting on the bench, our guy pegs the emotion as pure, pathetic sadness. He's trying to psychoanalyze a man who belongs in a landfill. Finally, he just stands up to walk away and buries the drama. This arc is cooked, and we are moving on to something hopefully less catastrophic. But before he could even touch grass, the trauma-pilled flashback decided to absolutely cook him. Our protagonist Hwang Moonjin thinks back to that wild, celestial start where the mysterious Heaven's Maiden basically handed him the keys to a brand new save file when he was staring into the void. He chugs that sake like it's a legendary potion, watching his entire pathetic history get scrubbed as he teleports straight into his much hotter, younger self. 16 years later, he's finally touching grass at his own wedding, while his boys Kim Chulwoo and the teasing goated wingman Moonjin swarm him like NPCs with side quests. They can't help but meme on our guy for being so incredibly dense about his own riz, still shocked he actually managed to pull off this whole marriage thing. That wholesome mama is sobbing her heart out with pride, while the pops is trying to save face by snotting into a handkerchief like a total legend. Dr. Kim is busy working the room, grinding his social stats and shaking hands like a pro who finally got a decent build in this endgame expansion. A blonde friend from the States rolls in to greet him, proving that even the international server isn't safe from his massive social networking gains. He's bowing and playing the perfect host, honestly putting in more effort here than he ever did back in his original, total failure tutorial arc. An elderly patient with a ponytail flashes a wholesome smile, showing that treating people like literal human beings is actually a cracked strategy for success. He reflects on his grind, realizing that being a true doctor is just a fancy way of saying he finally stopped being an absolute clown in the workplace. With the music kicking in, he starts that long walk down the aisle toward the altar, looking like he's about to hit the final objective of his legacy quest. The bride, the beautiful Lee Hee-mi, glides down with her father as if she's carrying the entire cutscene on her back. They lock hands at the altar while plotting their move to the States, basically planning to carry their professional co-op grind to an entirely new region. The efficient Kang Minchul keeps his speech shorter than a lobby chat message, just telling them to vibe and be happy for once. Back at the reception, the resident single guy is busy complaining until he finds out his friend's social life is actually higher tier than his own. He starts scheming with a red-haired friend of the bride, bonding over how much they both had to carry this couple just to get them to the altar. The wedding montage hits, effectively deleting his forever alone status and capping off his character arc with some serious high-tier Ws. They seal the deal with a kiss, proving that even a hard-stuck loser can get the dream ending if they just stop being mid for 5 minutes. The bouquet gets yeeted into the crowd like a heavy-hitter item drop, and everyone cheers because our guy finally won the game of life. But you already know the honeymoon-pilled vibes are about to get absolutely cooked, chat. Kim Kangmin and his wife, Lee Hee-mi, touch down in paradise, finally looking like they have two brain cells to rub together for a vacation. No medical emergencies on the itinerary yet. Entering the hotel room, our guy looks like he's already losing aura, probably mourning the medical textbook he left back at the grind station. Night falls, and he finds his better half balcony camping, scanning the stars like she's trying to locate a respawn point in this cutscene. He slides into the frame as the supportive spouse, promising he's built to shoulder her baggage. Total Sigma move. She finally spills that she's missing her late mother, and the mood shifts from vacation vibes to a sad, mid-tier piano track. He hugs her tight, fully committing to the quest of making her happy. This is the only W in their entire travel log so far. The next day, a rapid-fire montage of their 12-year history plays out, making their beach snack break look like they're just farming XP for a stable life patch. While they lounge on the sand, he treats retirement like a suggestion, even though everyone knows he'd be back in the hospital scrub zone within a week. Classic skill issue. Strolling by the water, she teases him about their bank account, completely unaware that the universe is queuing them up for a massive L any second now. Everything goes south the moment his eyes lock onto a stranger by the pool, leaving the doctor frozen like his controller, just disconnected during a boss fight. His wife identifies the random gym bro as someone from their high school days, triggering a full-blown memory glitch in the husband's brain. He flashes back to his old tormentor, a total reject who was busy manipulating grades and NPCs while the rest of the class was actually graduating. Though he recalls the bully grabbing his wife's hair back in the day, the hero chooses to ignore the relic to avoid fumbling the vacation. Level-headed, but barely. They're busy venting about this mid-encounter when the universe chimes in, dumping a chaotic crowd collapse event right on their path. Total disaster mode hits as a guy named Lee Jin-hyun hits the deck, sending bystanders into a panic sprint and officially cooking their beach day. Our guy snaps into professional mode, chain barking for gear and cranking out chest compressions like he's trying to speedrun a hospital rescue mission. He crunches the numbers mid-action, realizing he's hard stuck trying to carry a full squad mission while solo queuing, and the stress meter starts spiking red. But before he can rage quit, this man decides to speedrun a miracle and get these NPCs revived. Our guy Ji-hyun leaps into hardware store medic mode, slamming the defibrillator onto a stranger. With his wife Hee-mi and reformed bully Kangmin acting as the ultimate squad of panicked assistants, they're working overtime to prevent this beach resort from becoming a morgue, hard stuck in a crisis. After the chopper buzzes away and the chaos settles, the trio stands there looking absolutely cooked. It's supposed to be a romantic getaway, but they're just drained from the unexpected boss fight. Total mood killer. Strolling back to the hotel under the twilight, the former tormentor starts fumbling through small talk about his girlfriend. It's like watching a player spam the wrong dialogue tree, unbearable social friction. Watching him march ahead, the lead reflects on how much that jerk has evolved. It feels like the devs patched out his toxicity overnight, and honestly, the character growth is genuinely confusing. Suddenly, the repentant guy freezes to drop a heartfelt apology for his past antics. He's begging for a clean slate, leaving our guy standing there in shock at how fast this villain turned into a generic side character. Zero riz, but high sincerity. To break the tension, he starts preaching about a dusty 10-year-old medical doc that led him to his career. The revelation lands like a heavy debuff on his companion's confidence. Talk about a plot-relevant origin story. Wait, the reformed bully actually realizes our guy was the surgeon featured in that exact clip. His entire worldview just got ratioed by a decade-old television segment. They wrap up this weirdly wholesome reunion with a formal handshake, scrubbing off the salt of their history. Two NPCs finally checking off a long-neglected quest item. A rare W for character alignment. Turning to his wife, he offers a soft apology for his own past behavior, and she accepts it with the patience of a saint. Has he really changed? It's a total flip-the-script moment. He briefly catches a glint of a dark memory featuring a gun, one of those trauma dumps from the old life, but he swats it away. No point in mouthing over past XP grinds when it's time to live. He's closing the tab. Flash forward 1.5 years, and he's moved his whole setup to the States. Now he's holding court in a lecture hall, effectively speedrunning his career path while leaving the local drama in the rearview mirror. He's basically become a medical god, catching high-tier body counts of cured terminal cases in his daily lobby. Even when he's getting grief from the locals, his aura remains firmly in the S-tier. The former bully, now a colleague, slides a thick folder across the desk containing a diagnostic puzzle from hell. It's the kind of complex debuff that would make any textbook surrender. We're deep in the endgame content now. They start tag-teaming the travel history, and the lead suddenly realizes this isn't some mid-tier bug. It's a ticking time bomb pulled straight from his previous save file. Negative aura detected. He recognizes the Tenoff pathogen, a nasty virus from his past life that hasn't hit the public beta stage yet. This thing is built to rot organs and speedrun a global panic. It's officially over. Retreating to his office to lab test his theory, he compares the samples to a classic mutation event. He needs that RNA verification before he can convince the skeptical team he isn't losing his marbles. The staff looks at him like he's speaking absolute gibberish because the virus is technically unknown to them. Still, they agree to run the tests, mostly because his hit rate is too cracked to ignore. He lays out the testing protocol with the ego of a pro gamer staring at the patch notes. The team moves to execute the scan, an all-or-nothing play that will either cement his legacy or end his career. High-stakes gaming. But before we see if he's cooked or cracked, Bro's back on that mid-grind again. Our guy is grinding morning XP at his desk, deep diving into the Tenoff virus stats like a dev trying to fix a broken mechanic. He treats this potential outbreak like a late-game boss from his previous build, convinced this clinical trial data is a game-changer for his stats. To push this high-tier project, he brings Amy into the office, looking about as charismatic as a speedrunner trying to bypass a softlock. They trade pleasantries like two NPCs caught in a script loop before he drops the real dev talk, basically leaking his endgame meta. The protagonist explains the 30% fatality rate and the antiviral magic sauce, acting like he is teaching a total lobby noob. His partner starts calculating the market loot, while our lead pretends saving lives isn't just a low-yield side quest compared to pay-to-win. Sweating internally, the man knows the future patch notes by heart and watches the disease evolve while everyone else is still on version 1. He lays out a desperate plea, selling this gamble like it is a Tier 0 event that everyone should be dumping their entire bank into. She surprises him with a green light, proving her own main character energy is just as cracked as his when it comes to reckless investments. The deal is sealed with a smile, clearly relieved that he managed to bribe the system with his future knowledge min-maxing. The construction montage hits like a server-wide time skip as he scales the project up while the rest of the world just lags. A legendary Harvard virologist slides into the lobby like a high-level carry, ready to dissect the viral code with surgical precision. When the veteran insists he step up as chief director, the surgeon recoils like someone asked to play an FPS on a joystick. The old-timer keeps glazing his medical skills, basically acting like our guy is the chosen one who just finished the intro. Feeling the pressure of the world-saving meta, he finally accepts the role and upgrades his class from simple doctor to party leader. Time skipping to his 30s, the man looks like he has been doing nothing but farming boss encounters in the operating room. He flops onto a park bench to chat on his phone, sounding as stressed as a suburban dad who skipped the tutorial. Reflecting on his home life, he hits a moment of pure bliss, finding the only real cheat code in a miserable grind. Suddenly, a familiar voice triggers his latent PTSD, and he spins around like he just got hit by a frame-perfect ultimate. Seeing his old tormentor standing there, he is stunned at how the devs keep reusing old character models in this zone. They sit together in silence thicker than a level 1 health bar, as he wonders if this reunion is just a forced side quest. But before our guy can even process this his brain gets absolutely fried by more NPC behavior. Hwang Moonjin looks like his brain is buffering, trying to process the weirdness of his classmate name-dropping ghosts from the past. Flashes of that knife-wielding maniac speedrunning a life-ending attempt hit home, leaving our guy wondering why anyone would keep tabs on a dude hard stuck in a mental dumpster fire. Lee Yeon-hee drops the tea that her toxic ex got evicted from the prison lobby, making the surgeon look like he just saw a final boss respawn on his porch. She explains the guy is locked in a psych ward with a permanent debuff, and for once, the silence is louder than his internal monologue frantically checking for bugs. He just stands there while the autumn leaves do the heavy lifting for the vibe, looking completely zoned out after realizing he survived the main story arc. With the grace of a teammate disconnecting right before the boss kill, she waves goodbye to catch her flight and leaves him solo in the park. He watches her retreat with a 1,000-yard stare, feeling like he's lived this exact cutscene before without even needing to load the save file. Switching tracks to his day job, the doc snaps back in, slicing through tissue with the efficiency of a high-level player farming dailies. Time flies and his cure grinds out non-stop wins, with fatality rates dropping like XP bars during an event. Ratioed. He's drowning in medals and international clout, effectively speedrunning the savior route before most of the player base even finished the tutorial. Higher-ups are now trying to dump a Nobel Prize trophy on him like he's a god-tier carry in a lobby full of NPCs. Back in the office, someone asks if he's actually inting his S-tier career just to dip, as if leaving peak endgame is a total skill issue. The prodigy explains he's done grinding for glory and just wants to AFK with his family, proving he's officially checked out of the rat race. A year-old flashback shows Lee Himi saying goodbye to her grandfather, whose health bar finally hit 0 after a whisper-quiet struggle. The heart monitor flatlined, marking the end of the line and leaving the room heavy with a silence you can't clown on. He looks at his parents after the funeral and realizes with a jolt their character models aged way faster than he tracked while he was off screen. Staring intensely at an old photo, he packs his life into boxes, realizing that chasing achievements won't pause the inevitable ticking clock at home. Cleaning out the U.S. office feels like he's hitting delete on a decade-long grind that his coworkers are desperately trying to mourn. David rolls up at the clutch moment, clearly not ready to log off from their mentor-student session just yet. They lock in a handshake that feels more like a final farewell than a polite parting, ending the chapter on a rare, wholesome note. The kid who looked up to him admits he learned more from the master than the textbooks, cementing his status as the absolute GOAT of the ward. But before we crown this king, watch bro fumble the bag at the hospital. It's actually cooked. Jin-hyun rolls into Deal Hospital, and the elderly director greets him like he just clutched a 1v5. This whole chairman arc is definitely not the main quest. Negative aura. Crusty flashback shows our guy getting forced into this admin grind after his family fumbled the staffing roster. He wants to play healer, but he's hard stuck in desk duty purgatory. He bumps into Hwang Moonjin in the hall, trading Remember the Wedding vibes like two NPCs reminiscing about a world event that happened 3 years ago. The duo swaps banter about the parenting grind and the chairman title. Our guy tries to act like a side character despite holding max-level stats. Major main character energy. He's pulling overtime in the OR because he refuses to touch grass. He's treating this hospital like an infinite XP farm he has to solo. Late night hits and the phone rings with a home alert. Even a gigatier surgeon can't dodge the birthday boss fight guilt trip. It's over. Exhaustion is peaking, but the head nurse swoops in to demand a consult on a friend with a nasty tumor. She's not here for the yap session. She wants a miracle. She drops the scanned details, outlining a multi-stage boss encounter against an aortic tumor that makes low-level scrubs hit the respawn button immediately. Passing over the CT files like a quest item, she dumps the weight of the patient's entire timeline into his inventory. That's a serious debuff to his weekend. Our protagonist scans the imaging, realizing the previous surgeons were just throwing basic gear at a final boss-level brick wall. Absolute skill issue on their end. Inside, he's drowning in memories of how he fumbled his past, finally feeling the sting of his own history. He's gone real quiet, not feeling like a winner at all. His heart sinks into the floorboards because his past mistakes are hitting harder than a Nerf patch, drier than a lobby chat. She stares him down, asking if he's literally holding the scalpel when the pressure spikes. No delegation allowed. He's the one stuck in the hot seat. He locks in the surgery schedule and they start grinding the logistics. Turns out, chairman is just a fancy tag for the guy who has to do the whole operation solo. When she drops the patient's name, the reveal hits his face like a jump-scared streamer. His stoic routine just got completely ratioed. She explains she's the only one visiting the guy since he has zero support. It's heavy, quiet, and just plain sad. Suddenly, an assistant yanks him into a meeting like a corporate side quest interrupt. He has to dodge the admin grind for now to prep for the real fight. He finally lands back at home, completely wiped from the day's drama. Tomorrow is the ultimate test. If he clears this level, he might actually beat the game. But before Bro can even contemplate that W, his internal aura just got mega nerfed by fatherhood. Our protagonist sits by his kid Lee Junti's bedside, trying to turn off his internal engine under the moonlight while keeping watch over his sleeping son. His wife Lee Himi pops in, acting like everything's normal and chatting about their weekend calendar while wondering if their kid is actually surviving his school grind. They trade notes on a sports festival, with the busy lead player promising to carry his team duties even though his schedule is looking pretty bottom tier right now. She catches him staring into space again, basically pointing out his negative aura as he gets mentally locked in a staring contest with his own kid. He fumbles a weak excuse about being tired, trying to dodge her concern while clearly weighing whether to drop the main quest spoilers on her. He finally confesses he's got a weekend side mission, basically inviting the drama to his doorstep with that look on his face. She gives him a quick send-off hug, cluelessly wishing him luck as he ditches all his responsibilities to go hunt down ancient history. Rolling up to Haiwan Psychiatric Hospital, he checks in at the front desk of what looks less like a rehab center and more like a permanent rage-quit server for the forgotten. A random guard explains that this place is effectively a dumping ground for people whose families didn't want to pay the respawn fees, taking the stairs because the infrastructure is totally bricked. He follows the guard up to the gloomy levels, feeling like he's walking into a low-resolution dungeon. He asks if the residents are causing any lag in the system, but the guard says they're all just staying quiet and barely loading. They hit a door marked with the name of his old tormentor Lee Sangman, and the guard dips out, giving our guy exactly 5 minutes of unskippable cutscene time. He freezes up like his controller just disconnected, because his past life's trauma is hitting him with a full-stack debuff. Stuck in place with his feet glued to the floor, He's having a total meltdown while the dark memories of his previous run start surfacing. He forces a hard reset on his emotions, grabs the handle of that door, and steps in with the cold resolve of a man trying to speedrun his own misery. Locked inside a barred room, the former villain wakes up looking like a background mob who just realized he's in the wrong game. The moment hits our protagonist like a critical strike, because he's looking right at the man who made his previous life a living hell. Professionalism wins out as he breaks down the stage 4 cancer diagnosis, laying out the ugly facts like a dry patch note update. His inner monologue is basically a conflict of interest meme, debating whether to just uninstall the guy or actually show a shred of empathy. Standing near the window, he delivers a lecture on doctors needing to save everyone, effectively forcing his own hand to carry this dead weight. He stands there sweating through his shirt, waiting for a refusal that would have saved him so much time. But the silence is just absolute. The guard clarifies that while the prisoner is essentially banned from society, having police clearance makes this whole surgery loophole totally legit. In a twist of cosmic irony, our protagonist has to sign as the next of kin, effectively opting into a role he definitely didn't grind for. He scrubs in and ties his gown, shifting his mindset from "I despise this guy" to "I need a perfect completion rate on this surgery." The surgery hits a RNG nightmare immediately, forcing the team to dump resources into every emergency protocol they have on standby. As the monitors start flashing like a rave in a burning building, the team uses their gear with surgical precision to stabilize the patient. The room goes silent as they hammer away at the problem, focused entirely on the messy biological work in front of them. They pull it off, and the staff is already starting to glaze the chairman for pulling a miracle out of thin air. The surgical team is absolutely losing it over how cracked he is, treating the whole operation like a masterclass, not a chore. But now our guy stands in the hall, glazed over, no hint of joy. Something's off, but it's not like he expected a gold star from the chairman. Hwang Moonjin's gotta keep grinding, no time for negative aura. But honestly, leave it to this bro to fumble the vibe check while things get absolutely rancid. Our guy hits us with a trash-tier liver joke as the frame zooms into the IV drip belonging to Lee Sangmin. Room's empty, vibes are rancid. The doc drops the discharge news with all the charisma of a patch note update, telling the patient his prison sentence ends tomorrow, ratioed by paperwork. Watching him drone on about recurring health issues, it's clear he treats this man like a low-level NPC background prop, pure autopilot energy. Then a tiny whisper of gratitude hits him, making the doc freeze like he just hit a hidden boss encounter. Skill issue. He clears the room and tries to gaslight himself into thinking he imagined the whole thing. The immersion is absolutely broken. Fast forward 3 years and he's watching the news, where a mental asylum is turning into a bonfire. He's speedrunning this tragedy. Everything in the building is hitting absolute zero aura as patients scramble to escape the flames. 0% chance of survival status. Sangmin stands paralyzed in the chaos, realizing his life just got a massive, unwanted balance patch. Peak panic mode. Physics takes the wheel and he faceplants down the stairs. His physical stats are clearly deep in the mud. Total F-tier movement. He lies there huffing smoke, fully ready to quit the game and delete his save file. He's cooked. His brain tries to load a Sunny Field nostalgia cutscene, desperately trying to ignore the literal barbecue his lungs are experiencing. The hallucination shifts into something cursed as he calls out for his mother, totally fumbling the bag on his final moments. He wakes up in a starry void, getting dunked on by a lady in purple who says his subscription is still active. Negative aura. She drags his mid-arc, telling him he has to grind out atonement because dying in a fire is a total amateur move. A massive beam hits him like a forced respawn command, basically telling him to stop complaining and get back to the lobby. He gasps back into reality among the embers, confused why the universe is so allergic to him checking out early. We're so back. Standing in the wreckage, our guy starts his new quest, proving even a total fail run can eventually hit the restart button. But honestly, chat, this restart is looking absolutely cooked before he even gets started. Our guy Hwang Moonjin stands by the crib, stares blankly at the newborn. Fresh start, but his aura points are rock bottom. Same thing with the time, bro. His schedule's more chaotic than a newbie playing Far Cry. Reality's so off. Bright city lights flood the apartment as his middle school son, Lee Junti, starts screaming for him like a Quest NPC who really needs a favor. When his kid shakes him awake with the urgency of a server wipe, our guy goes from comatose to fully alert in half a heartbeat because he already knows the drill. The news that his wife, Lee Himi, is currently attempting to cook lunch hits him harder than a final boss with a cheese build. In the kitchen, his bewildered wife is busy butchering a poor avocado like she's trying to perform surgery without an anesthesia license. Staring at the family photo, he realizes time is flying by faster than the XP bar on a speedrun attempt. A table full of actual edible food appears, and honestly, the sheer relief on his face is giving off "I survived the tutorial" vibes. It turns out his son stepped up to handle the kitchen duties. proving that sometimes the side character is the only one keeping the party from wiping. They sit together laughing and eating for the anniversary, as if this whole life wasn't bought with a second chance coupon from the cosmic developers. Back in the study, his wife approaches with the gentle persistence of a guild leader, reminding you that, yes, it's finally time to do your weekly dailies. She starts detailing the schedule for his upcoming volunteer mission. Keeping him on track while he pretends reading is currently the most important content in the game. A shot of the hospital exterior drops, reinforcing that even when he's playing the role of charitable saint, this man is still building his brand empire. When the idea of bringing his kid along for the trip is floated, he listens with the intensity of someone checking over a patch notes update for a major expansion. They pack up and start the long haul to the island, traversing the map just to unlock a few more volunteer progression achievements. Standing on the boat deck, he gets a moment to look out at the blue water, soaking in the kind of peace that usually precedes a massive, unavoidable difficulty spike. He starts chatting with his colleague on the deck, catching up while the younger kid is off busy hunting for photos to fill out the side quest log. They trade banter about their past, admitting that both of them were bottom-tier students back in their own tutorial arc days. The nostalgia hits hard as they lean into the fact that their current success is basically just a lucky respawn after a lifetime of fumble-tier decisions. His colleague pulls out the high-tier whiskey like it's a legendary-grade loot drop, found at the absolute end of a tedious dungeon crawl. Ginning like he just found a cheat code, he stares off at the horizon, clearly ready to get that liquid courage maxing session started. The moment they dock at the rustic clinic, his gut decides to give out, which is a major skill issue for someone who prides himself on peak physical performance. He pivots quickly into doctor mode, diagnosing the local elderly patient with the efficiency of a high-level player, speed-reading through a common tutorial dialogue. He tells the woman to get a real checkup at a major facility, and she bows back with the respect reserved for a god-tier carry in a low-level lobby. Giving his son a head pat, he displays a rare moment of affection that suggests his parenting build isn't completely trash-tier after all. Night hits the island, and since he can't sleep on the local bedding, he heads outside to stretch under the stars like a man suffering the consequences of a bad equipment loadout. With the kid dead-ass tired and out for the count, he decides to go on a solo scouting mission into the darkness. Flashlight in hand, he drifts down the beach path, acting like the main character who just accepted an unprompted, high-risk side quest in the middle of the night. The flashlight beam hits a creepy, run-down shack that looks like the exact setting for a jump scare in a low-budget horror flick. He freezes up completely when he realizes he's not alone, locking his gaze on the figure that just spawned in the lobby. Turns out that Ops Lobby jump scare was just another mid-side quest in this man's cooked life. Our guy strolls through the village heat with his son, Lee Junti, fronting like he's just keeping it chill, while the kid admits he's vibing with this whole healer life. He checks out the local plants, realizing that pursuing a medical career is basically an endless XP grind with 0 HP recovery. Hard stuck. When the junior apprentice drops the news that he wants a carbon copy of his dad's life, the protagonist acts like it isn't the saddest career path ever. Massive L. He decides to crash a shack to inspect a fresh wound, playing the seasoned hero despite realizing his inventory is completely empty. NPC energy. Questioning the patient reveals some random hermit has been doing house calls, which is a major red flag for this spawn zone. Sus. He starts poking at the man's back, realizing some local legend is actually cracked at medicine and outplaying the system. Absolute cinema. Our protagonist remembers a sketchy guy he saw earlier and wonders if that low-aura rando is actually a top-tier doc. No shot. Looking at how clean that necrotic tissue removal is, he is stunned to find work that competes with his own min-maxing standards. Cracked. The apprentice suddenly looks like he's crashing from a massive carb load, hitting a total status ailment right on the clock. Skill issue. He chooses to extend his stay to grind out more days, deciding to bench the good whiskey for later instead of partying now. Peak cope. Poor kid is bawling because the booze is delayed, proving even future healers have a fatal weakness for the sauce. Down horrendous. Later, he finds the bottle tucked away like a hidden quest item, but the vibes are already totally cooked. He is enjoying some seaside peace until his doctor sense alerts him that the main story is about to crash their chill session. It's over. Catching a glimpse of the white-haired island mystery man, he gets such a massive distrust debuff that he can't stop staring. He watches the stranger walk off, feeling that glitchy, déjà vu discomfort that tells him the game is rigged against him. Negative aura. Trying to keep the tension low for the boy, he brushes off his unease like he hasn't been through enough trauma to know better. Total cap. That night, a storm hits the island like a final boss entrance, jolting him awake just as the weather turns completely chaotic. He realizes they are trapped in a low-level disaster scenario with 0 exit strategy, making their escape plan look like a total fail. Fumbled the bag. A local rushes over through the downpour, begging for help with a random accident that is definitely going to ruin his mood. Side quest. The villager spills the tea on a gory injury, forcing our hero to accept he is the only player left on this server who knows first aid. He is sweating bullets because he is essentially running endgame content with a starting gear kit and absolutely zero support. Absolute malding. Triage mode is active, but as he assesses the guts, he realizes he has to pull off field surgery or watch the guy bleed out. He knows he could patch up the internal plumbing if he acts fast, but the hurricane has nerfed all his transport options. GG. Gripping the table in a desperate fight against the timer, he decides he is going to attempt this impossible solo surgery build. He starts prepping his basic volunteer kit like he's playing a bootleg surgeon simulator, while the family looks on in total despair. The family is praying for a miracle, but he's just realizing the real skill issue is lacking a proper party for the anesthesia. With the house flickering from the storm, he sends up a prayer for any NPC to spawn in and help him carry this quest. Suddenly, a knock rings out over the thunder, and in walks the one guy he really didn't want involved in his surgery. Seeing his rival standing there, he is completely frozen, realizing he has to rely on the guy he spent all day hating. W or L. But honestly, that negative aura is about to hit like a truck in this rain. During a torrential downpour, Ji-hyun stares daggers at the white-haired doctor who just materialized on the island. He wants to hit the emote button to signal his absolute annoyance, but he can't exactly rage quit when someone's life is hanging in the balance. The stranger just shrugs like he's queuing for a casual raid, not emergency trauma surgery. Our guy eventually swallows his pride to accept the assist while the storm tries to grief their progress. Peak teamwork? Not quite. They cobble together a tarp-lined theater that looks like it was scavenged from a landfill. It's a glorified shed functioning as a high-stakes operating room now, though the loot drops here are definitely not worth the grind. Sweat is pouring down the protagonist's face as he assesses the carnage. His stats are totally nerfed by the lack of proper tools and visibility, making it feel like he skipped the tutorial and jumped straight into a boss fight. Then this mysterious support unit slides into the surgical field with an assist, so cracked it's basically carrying the whole team. It's like a pro gamer took the controller to speedrun the procedure for him. The lead surgeon is doing the mental math on how some random island NPC has the muscle memory of a veteran grinder. There is no shot this guy is a newbie. The synergy is purely suspicious. He considers opening a dialogue branch to solve the mystery, but decides to table the interrogation. Letting his curiosity tank the patient's health bar would be an absolute skill issue. With the vitals stabilized, the main character offers a quick, polite nod of gratitude. The doctor immediately ghosts him without a single GG. Talk about leaving the party early. The sun finally respawns after the storm, and as the rescue bird hauls the patient away, he crashes on the couch with his kid. He earned the XP break, but his brain is still stuck on the weirdest support unit in history. Sleep isn't happening, so he wanders out into the night air while debating if he should just head home. He opts to drown the confusion in a drink, which is how every tragic misadventure in this series actually begins. Memory lane hits him like a lagging server, reminding him that the man he just operated with looks exactly like an old frenemy. The guy's aura feels bizarrely familiar and cursed at the same time. He spots the white-haired enigma sitting on the beach like a background object that missed its dialogue trigger. Time to see if he can unlock some hidden backstory content. Our guy drops into the sand next to the stranger to suss out if he's being a creep or just catching a familiar scent. It's less of a medical consult and more of a deeply awkward social encounter. Out comes the cooler with the booze because nothing fixes a weird vibe like shared liquid courage on a remote island. He's determined to force a conversation, regardless of who this guy actually is. They're throwing back drinks like college roommates, and he's low-key shook that the man accepted the invite. The dialogue tree is officially open, though he's struggling to maintain his composure. Noticing the grit in the stranger's voice, he realizes this guy has expensive taste in liquor. A massive red flag. It's like a mystery boss is just vibing on a public server. School day memories flash in his mind like a corrupted save file, yet he keeps his mouth shut instead of dropping the bombshell question. It's either peak restraint or he's truly terrified of the answer. Stargazing on a beach with a dude who might be his former rival is the weirdest timeline, but he decides to just let it ride. Some mysteries are better left as side quests so you don't break the main progression. Anyway, the vibes were too immaculate to last, so get ready for this absolute. Amy Anderson is speedrunning the city tour, dragging her brother along while he begs her to chillax. It's like watching an NPC ignore the tutorial just to sprint into a wall. They grab coffee, but the guy is suspicious of her tourist act. She's out here pretending to be a regular human, but the vibe check is failing hard. She drops the facade, admitting she's here to grade humanity's worth. Bold talk, until the local lady starts screaming and ruins the entire philosophy seminar. Some clown with a knife just triggered an unscripted event in the middle of the street. Our celestial duo is just standing there, total skill issue. She finally realizes their god-tier powers are currently uninstalled. They went from Giga-Chad deities to default character models with 0 defense stats. The attacker doesn't care about the lore, he just starts spamming light attacks. Her frantic cry for help is looking like a one-way trip to Respawn Town. The memory of physical pain hits like a truck. The brother tried to tank for her, but they both have the durability of wet cardboard. They speedrun to the ER, arriving as nobody-tier assets. The hospital drama is just starting its loading screen while these two bleed out. Professor Jiang Gisu has peak negative aura, ordering the staff to ditch these losers to keep the books clean. Total bean counter energy. Youngsu folds under pressure like a pro with the patient critical. The bosses are effectively griefing the server by denying her a spawn point. Then Hwang Moonjin busts in, tired of the mid-tier management. He's grinding for that hero moment, claiming the surgery like he's hunting for S-tier loot. Go Youngchin tries to warn him about career-ending debuffs. Our guy doesn't care. He's maxing out his defiance stats to save a total stranger. He calls the shots, proving he's the only one not acting like a scripted NPC in this circus. The unconscious patient can hear his absolute Chad energy. As her vision fades to black, she catches a glimpse of the man holding her life together. He's definitely the main character of this tragic grind. Destiny is handing him a massive debuff for being a good person. He's locking himself into a total L, ready to get ratioed by his own morals. Anyway, before he gets absolutely cooked by his own stupidity, enter the ultimate mom buff. Our favorite supportive mom glides in with a plate of sliced fruit, delivering a tactical snack break to her son mid-grind. The student stares at the snack plate like he just glitched through the map, realizing for the first time his own mother is a doctor too. NPC status confirmed. Lee Yonhee swings open a hospital room door, hoping to escape her own family's suffocating expectations. She ducks outside for some peace, but the hallways offer zero refuge from the constant soul-crushing drama. This man is just vibing by a vending machine. He flashes a grin that says he's totally fine, but our girl is not buying the act for a single second. She hits him with the hard truth, calling him out for being a total puppet dancing to his father's script, absolute ratioed. Trapped in the sterile corridor, the resident wonders if anyone at this school has a single shred of agency left in their souls. He opens up about the grind, admitting the pressure almost broke him before he finally found his own rhythm. He talks about the people who inspired him, completely shifting his perspective on this entire career path. Growth arc incoming. Sinking into a chair, she admits she just lacks the raw grind set to survive this medical pressure cooker. She stands in the hall, sighing as she accepts her life is basically an automated, low-stakes side quest. Then she overhears some random gossip that makes her stop in her tracks, wondering if she missed a major server update. Staff at the station are yapping about some high schooler who supposedly sniped a stomach cancer diagnosis like he had aimbot hacks enabled. The legends of this supposed prodigy are spreading faster than a full-scale server crash, with everyone scrambling to find the source. He reflects on the legends who actually touched grass, realizing they provided the exact blueprint for his current mindset. Yonhee peeks into room 502, spotting the blonde rumored talent and realizing he's just another player in this lobby. Negative aura detected. The prodigy explains to his dad that the clinic is the ultimate quiet zone for hitting the books. He whips his head around, locking eyes with her and sending the poor girl into a flat-out panic. He leans back, feeling like something is off, while his brain cycles into full-power standby mode. She slams against the wall, praying the guy didn't catch her being a total creep in the shadows. Watching him care for his father, she realizes he's not just grinding for clout. He's actually doing this because he cares. A smile creeps across her face as she learns his name is Jinhin, finally seeing the massive potential hidden in this lobby. Back home, the son gets grilled about his dad, feeling like he's playing a game where the objectives keep shifting. His mom pulls him into a hug, confirming he really did inherit her massive skill tree for the medical career grind. And that's where chapter 148 leaves us. Is the prodigy about to hit a massive wall, or is he just getting warmed up for the final boss? Stay tuned to see if he gets hard stuck or levels up.